Okay, good evening and welcome to the Lompoc City Council meeting, Tuesday, May 19th. We are continuing from closed session. City Attorney, would you like to report?
Thank you, Mayor. There were two items on the closed session agenda. One item, there was no reportable action. The other item, there is a reportable action. The council has authorized my office, with the assistance of staff, to pursue a nuisance abatement proceeding against the property and property owner of 215-219 North L Street.
Okay, thank you. Will you please rise for the invocation by Mr. Pete Lucero.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you all. We are here tonight to do the business of our local government. This body, closest to the people, is assembled for a purpose, and we are reminded of that fact. Though challenged by our differences, there are great advantages there too. We do not all think the same way or believe the same things, yet we are all linked by a common humanity and a shared origin. Let us work together tonight to move our community forward in a spirit of mutual respect and common decency, to showcase right here in Lompoc what's best about our communities, our state, and our nation. The reality is we embrace many different traditions. We are Christians, Jews, Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, humanists, atheists, agnostics, Wiccans, pagans, unaffiliated, uncertain, and so much more. We are straight, gay, transgender. We are young and old, and everything in between. We represent dozens of races and nationalities, and we run the gamut from liberal to conservative. Naturally, we often feel fiercely protective of what we do believe. Lo, there is great value in the passion of our convictions, and thankfully so. And there is one thing on which we all can agree. We share the goal of improving our collective lives. Our prayer is thus: we unite here this evening around that noble aim and noble purpose to use common sense, move past biases, and accept new ideas, plainly speaking, to advance our community, making it a valued home for all citizens. So help us God.
Amen. Thank you, Peter. Please remain standing and help join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, on May 16th, I read a proclamation honoring the awareness of Huntington's disease and juvenile Huntington's disease. I did that at Ryan Park. Let's see, we have a presentation this evening, and would the individuals from Transition Mental Health please step to the podium? Okay. This is a proclamation for Mental Health Month. Whereas mental health is essential to everyone's overall health and well-being. Whereas everyone experiences, time to time, difficulty with stress in their lives. Whereas mental health conditions are experienced by 1 in 4 people. Whereas prevention and early intervention are effective ways to reduce the severity of mental health conditions. Whereas there is a strong body of research that supports specific tools that everyone can use to better handle challenges and protect their health and well-being. Whereas with effective treatment, those individuals with mental health conditions can resolve and lead a productive life. Whereas each business, school, government, law enforcement agency, healthcare provider, organizations, and citizens share the burden of mental health problems and has the responsibility to promote mental health wellness and support prevention of early intervention efforts. Whereas, in deep appreciation of Helping Hands of Lompoc for encouraging members to serve as a model for those aspiring to do community service. Now, therefore, I, Bob Lingle, Mayor of the City of Lompoc, do hereby proclaim May as Mental Health Awareness Month in the City of Lompoc. Now we're going to ask two of our citizens to read some letters that they've prepared. Just state your name and read.
Good evening. My name is Tina Aubin. Thank you for having me here tonight. I'm here to share my story with you. Schizophrenia is a chronic, severe, and debilitating brain disorder. It affects about 1.1% of the United States population in a given year. I was 5 when I was diagnosed with childhood schizophrenia after night terrors prevented me from sleeping. Night terrors, or sleep terrors, is a sleep disorder that seems similar to nightmares, but with a far more dramatic presentation. Night terrors happen after deep non-REM sleep or rapid eye movement. Unlike nightmares, a night terror is not technically a dream, but more like a sudden reaction of fear that happens during the transition from one sleep phase into another, leaving me unconsolable. I have lived my life with visual and auditory hallucinations. I have no idea how to live life any other way. It's what makes me unique. But people often looked and treated me as though I were contagious, many even believing me to be dangerous, although I have never harmed another living soul. I'm sorry, I'm nervous. These are just an example. These are just a few examples of the stigma that surrounds schizophrenia. I withdrew from everything, believing that I was alone. It wasn't until years later that I found out 1 in 4 people will experience some kind of mental health problem in the course of a year. My world grew exponentially. I now knew that I was not alone. I moved to California in February of 2009. I did well for a while, and then in March of 2010, I once again tried to take my own life. To this day, I can't tell you how I survived. And to be perfectly honest with you, I'm glad I did, because something within me changed. I became fed up with the stigma, fed up with the way people looked at me. I began to fight back. I'd had enough with being pushed around and being a label being placed upon me because of my illness. I was finally fed up. I walked through the doors of Helping Hands of Lompoc in February of 2013. I had no idea a place like this even existed. Helping Hands is a nonprofit organization through Transitions Mental Health Association. Transitions, or TMA, is dedicated to the elimination of stigma and promoting recovery and wellness for people with mental illness through work, housing, community, and family support services. Helping Hands is completely peer-based. It's peers teaching peers how to succeed in a world that doesn't always see just how biased it is when dealing with people living with mental illness. When I landed in Helping Hands' lap, I was homeless, tired, and scared. Sandy and her staff welcomed me in with open arms. It started slowly at first. I began interacting with different people and began joining other peer-based groups, self-help, and social. The center has a computer lab where I've taken PowerPoint and Publisher. I now have my mental health first aid training and my CPR first aid training, and I've just completed a 6-hour course in Coming Out Proud Speakers Bureau training, and I work 2 days a week as a host at the center. For the first time in my life, I'm excited and passionate about where I'd like to see my life go. Although I'm not doing a very good job tonight, I enjoy public speaking. And I'm looking forward to working with Transitions to help stomp out this stigma in mental health. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. My name is Sherry Herndon, and I'm thankful and blessed to be here tonight. I've been diagnosed with major depression and schizoaffective disorder. My illness consists of hearing voices and seeing people. I've had this illness since 2002. I've been in treatment with my medications and therapy. Also, I've had 3 suicide attempts in my life, and I've been hospitalized at Vista Del Mar and the PUF unit in Santa Barbara. Since my illness, I've had sought out help from agencies such as Mental Health and the Helping Hands of Lompoc. These programs have provided me with stability from my illness. At the Helping Hands of Lompoc, I have served as a volunteer at the front desk, greeting members and interviewing prospective members. I was also the art teacher and received an award for People of Extraordinary Worth. My artwork has been featured at the gift shop at the Recovery Learning Center located in Santa Maria, and I was also in the Santa Barbara Arts Festival. In 2007, I served on the ADMHS Alcohol, Drug, and Mental Health Board as a commissioner, advocating for families with members who have mental illness. In 2007, I served as secretary to NAMI, National Alliance of the Mentally Ill. Being part of Speakers Bureau, I've given speeches about my mental illness and recovery to different agencies and organizations, including Rigetti High School and Coast Valley Treatment Center. I'm currently in recovery with my mental illness. I have a husband, Rudy, who is supportive, and also he has mental illness. I have 3 children and reside in Lompoc, California. Mental illness is tragic, but it doesn't have to be a loss. 2% of the population suffers with schizoaffective disorder. The cost of programs such as Helping Hands of Lompoc runs about $900 per year versus a stay at Vista Del Mar Hospital at $1,400 per night. I find the Helping Hands of Lompoc has excelled in my recovery, and I'd like to thank you for your time tonight and sharing you with my story. Thank you very much.
Thank you for those great stories. You both did very well. Congratulations. Okay, City Administrator's Report.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple quick things to take note of in addition to the daily operational issues we have. I attended the National Day of Prayer service that we had out here in the City Hall Plaza 2 Thursdays ago. Also attended a Library Board of Trustees meeting as we continue to work through the issues of the transition of the library into a city department. I participated in the Santa Barbara County Emergency Management meeting, which is a planning meeting that we have amongst the 8 city managers and the county administrative officer in Santa Barbara for disaster preparedness. And we have been involved in intensive budget meetings, and happy to say that everybody has given it their all to bring this thing in as close to balanced as we can. So we plan to deliver up to you at the next meeting our draft of our proposals. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, next we have public comment. This is your opportunity to speak to up to 3 minutes on any item on the consent calendar.
My name is Gail Clark Savage, and I am here to let you know about an event that's going to occur on June 4th here in town. We have the opportunity to have the AIDS life cyclists come through town on their trip from San Francisco to Los Angeles during their fundraising campaign for AIDS research and HIV research. They're going to be here June 4th. They arrive around 8 or 8:30 in the morning. They start arriving. They come from Santa Maria. It's their shortest day. It's also their day when they wear red. So they really dress up and they wear outrageous costumes. It's a lot of fun to go and see them. But it's also interesting to note that each one of those riders has to raise $3,000 before they can even make this horrendous ride. So they are able to raise a lot of money for the cause. There will be approximately 2,500 riders, and there are about 1,250 support personnel that come along with them. So I'm mainly asking that we get support from the community to say hello to them as they come in. Not only are they doing a wonderful thing, and so many people are affected by HIV and AIDS, but besides that, they also bring money into our community. And they learn about our community, and maybe they'll even come back and stay and use our restaurants and our hotels and that sort of thing. So that's good for our community also. Several of us in the community are going to be over there handing out our mural brochures so that they'll get a chance, since they're here for a good part of the day, to wander around and look at our murals and find out more about what Lompoc is all about. And we are a welcoming community. So we'll let you know that the easiest way to see them, they'll be staying at Ryan Park, so you can always go over there, or you can greet them as they ride in, and the easiest way would be to go along Chestnut, and they'll be crossing B, C, D, E en route to Ryan Park at O. So you can stand along that street, you can wave to them and say hi, or you can go glad hand them at the park. So I hope that we'll see some of you there, and I think it's a great thing that they have chosen Lompoc as one of the communities that they want to stop in and to come through. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so does anyone want to speak on any item on the consent calendar? Okay, then we're going to move the consent calendar. The consent calendar are items that are considered to be routine and will be approved by one motion by the council unless a council member wishes to have an item removed from the consent calendar. Does any council member wish to have an item removed? Okay, seeing no one, then I will accept a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I move we accept the consent calendar.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we vote? Okay, the consent calendar passes 5-0. This will bring us on to staff presentations. This first presentation is by Greg Ratcliffe.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Greg Ratcliffe here, studio manager at your Lompoc Media Center. And I can't tell you how happy I am to be in front of you tonight to make this announcement and this presentation. The road that brought me here to the podium tonight has been a very long one, a very difficult one, and sometimes even a painful one. But having survived all of that, I'm happy to tell you that as of last week, your media center now owns and operates its very own low-power FM radio station. I brought along a little PowerPoint to tell you about it, just a short one to get you in the mood. It's called KPEG, and you find it at 100.9 FM. The LP there on the end is a designation that the FCC gives us for being low power. Okay, but it's not something that we have to call it all the time. We do have to use that in our top of the hour legal IDs, but among friends we can just call it KPEG. And the antenna you see there, just as a note, that was designed by my graphic artist back at the studio, Bill Smith, very talented man, but it's just for illustrative purposes. It looks nothing at all like the one we really have, just so you know. Here's a little brief timeline on the project. When I said it's been a long road, I wasn't kidding. We started the original conversations on this project back in November of 2012, and once we decided it was worth looking into, I spent the next year or so doing the research on feasibilities frequency of availabilities and seeing what we could do with this, learning how to do the application and learning more than I ever wanted to know about the FCC. And finally, in November of 2013, the FCC opened up a 2-week application period to where we filed our application. In January of 14, the FCC issued our construction permit based on the granting of our application. At that point, we had 18 months to build the station based on the specifications in the permit. So we spent the next year plus doing the planning and all the due diligence on the equipment purchases. And finally, in March of this year, transmitter site construction started in earnest, finished up last month. And then exactly 1 week ago today, last Tuesday, the FCC granted our license, and we now have full power authorization for our 100-watt low-power FM station. So that was kind of a landmark for us, something we've been looking forward to for over 2 years. I brought along some pictures just to show you how the process took place. I'm going to kind of breeze through them mostly pretty quickly. This one has a little story attached to it, though, I want to share with you. This is actually the construction crew that came in and did this, but their arrival was actually delayed by 2 or 3 weeks at one point, and we were just kind of sitting around waiting for them to show up. That's all we had left to do. So one day I got tired of waiting, and I grabbed my assistant, Bill Smith, a couple of shovels and some Gatorade, and we went up to the transmitter site and started digging trenches ourselves. We got about 8 inches deep and then realized that possibly our best trench digging days were behind us. So we deferred to the construction crew. In other words, we gave up and quit, and we let the younger guys with the bigger shovels and the stronger backs take over. So let it be known that Bill and I did the hard work, and then these guys came and did the cleanup after that. This is a picture of the actual antenna array that was constructed on the ground level before we raised it up. You notice in the background a beautiful view of the Lompoc Valley. That's because this was taken up on a hilltop. The transmitter is located at the O Street Reservoir at the south end of town. So we have a beautiful view of the town up there and also very good coverage for the radio station. And one of the big days in any build out of a radio station is the day you lift the antenna. So here's a picture of the antenna raising. It's going to be mounted onto that pole right there. And if that pole looks suspiciously like a light pole, that's because it is. We were able to gain access to a surplus light pole from the city that was taken out of service. It was on the scrap pile. So we rescued it and gave it a good home and a new purpose in life. So that's what our radio antenna is actually attached to. And here's a picture of the crew attaching that to the pole. On the other side, you have to build a transmitter housing, and this is more surplus that was taken off the scrap heap. This electric crew dropping the base down over the conduit, and then the actual transmitter housing going over on the top of that. And that's what it looks like when the two are put together, although now it has doors on it so the animals don't get in. Then the first thing we did after that, we had to put some electricity. Radio stations don't work too well unless you have something to plug them into. So there's our power. And then we had to build the rack. Come to find out, they shipped me the rack, and there was a little bit of construction involved in that as well. Some assembly required, as they say. So I put the rack together, and that's what that looked like. And then the fun really began. That's when we got to put the components of the transmitter actually in the rack and get started. And that's what that project looked like. And that's what it looks like when it's all cleaned up and finished. So that's the transmitter site inside. Now there's two sides of a radio station, the transmitter side and, of course, the studio side. This is a really horrible picture of the studio. Sorry, there's a terrible glare in the room. But this is a little studio just adjacent to my office there, TAP TV at the Anderson Recreation Center. And you see the work rack there on the right and the workstation in front with the audio board in the foreground. Here's a little closer picture of the workstation with our radio station automation that allows us to play the music that we're doing. I know it's kind of hard to see, but if you look up there in the top right corner of that computer screen, you see what looks like might be a logo, and closer examination shows you that that's what that is. Once again, done by our graphic artist, Bill Smith. When he's not helping his boss dig ditches, he's a real good artist, and he designed these for us. not necessarily the final draft of what we're going to do, but certainly the favorite that is on top of the list. And we have two versions, one that we'll use for letterhead, and the bottom with the Lompoc, California, on the bottom we could use for bumper stickers or such things if we ever get around to that. And in the middle, you'll find the slogan that we came up with. Every radio station needs a good slogan, and ours is, just this side of the 101, we're 100.9 KPEG, he said in his best radio voice. So what are we going to do with this thing, you may ask? Well, the programming right now is running music automation. We are authorized by the FCC to run 24/7, although we don't have to. We are doing so at this point, and we are running our automation, just digital audio files right now on a loop, just to test out the system. We're still kind of in a testing mode at this phase. Down the line, we'd like to take some of our applicable TAP TV programming from across the hall and bring it over to the radio side. Some of the more less visual type shows, talk shows on TAP TV might translate pretty well to radio, so we'll bring those over. And down the road, we would like to actually open it up to the public and have people come in and start producing their own radio programs, similar to what they do on the TAP TV side of the aisle. And it should be emphasized that we're not anywhere near close to being able to be ready to do that right now. There's a lot that has to happen. The studio itself is not public ready, and we have to formulate a whole new set of policies and procedures and go through some things like that before we can do that. But that's a road that we do want to go down to eventually. In the meantime, we can do some high school sports. As you probably know, TAP TV covers Lompoc High School and Cabrillo High School football, but CIF regulations don't allow us to do that live, so we do delayed television broadcast of the football games. The radio station will now give us the opportunity to do that live to supplement our television coverage. And hopefully down the road, we want to actually expand to some more sports and cover maybe some baseball and some basketball as well. Why not? Let's see what we can do. Special events is something we want to get involved in. We have a mobile vehicle that we use for our TAP TV remote events. We can use that for radio events as well. And hopefully somewhere in the future, we'll be able to go live from the truck from anywhere in town and do live radio from anywhere we need to. And council meetings, that's one thing we don't have to wait for. I'm pleased to tell you that this meeting right now is not only being telecast on Channel 23 and streamed on the city's website to the internet, it is also out live on 100.9 FM. So this is the first ever trimulcast, if you will, of a council meeting here in Lompoc. One of the biggest things that we had in mind when we first contemplated doing this project was the emergency notification opportunities that it gave us. Our coverage is the entire Lompoc Valley, plus the outlying areas in Vandenberg Village and Mesa Oaks, and both North and South Base. We have a tremendous, strong, clear signal all the way to Surf Depot and all the way over to Tularosa Road and up down to Firefighter Road up past the main gate. So our coverage is very, very good, more than I could have hoped for, actually. And that opens up the opportunity to have some emergency notification. What we hope to do down the road is to establish a link to the studio from the Emergency Operations Center, allowing the people that are manning that position to break into our programming live and go live with emergency notifications from the EOC without having to actually go to the radio station itself. So that should be a big benefit to everyone, I think. And we plan on doing a public outreach campaign to inform everybody that that's going to happen. And in the event of emergency, 100.9 FM is the place to tune to for current information. So the community benefits of our project, the emergency notification, of course, is on the top of my list. Community outreach. The station allows us to inform the community about nonprofit organizations and what they're going through and offering. Event promotion, the same nonprofits, we can advertise what they've got going on, and then eventually we can go out and cover them as well. Economic development is something we can help with, although low power FM licenses are by design non-commercial. We still have underwriting and sponsorships that we can offer, and some of the high-profile events would enable some of our local businesses to come in and get some name recognition involved in that. And of course, the public participation part that I told about public coming in and being able to actively participate in the programming will be a good plus as well. So that's a brief KPEG in a nutshell for you. We are 100.9, and we have an FM radio station at your disposal. So that's pretty good news, and I've been waiting over 2 years to be able to tell you that. So now I'm at your disposal for any questions. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Greg. That is exciting news. You know, I'm glad you've got the council meetings on the radio because we definitely have radio faces here, so. You can take us off TV now.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Mosby.
I had a question for you here. Do you have generators set up for emergency purposes?
Not as of yet, but that is something that we're working on, actually. It's one thing we're talking with Chief Ladapow, actually, about getting some teamwork on that and getting generators on both ends so we'll be able to stay up and running.
Yeah, for emergency announcing, that'd be a good idea.
Yeah, that's in the works, yeah.
Greg, do you know how long it's been since Lompoc had, right now we have an AM station and now we have an FM station. Do you know how long it's been since we had radio and?
Well, there's actually a couple of low-power FM radio stations already in existence that I know
Oh,
of.
there are, okay.
Trinity Church has one.
Oh, that's right, okay.
So I think they picked up a couple back in the first low-power FM licensing back in 2000. Yeah. So I think we've got two. And before then, it was way back into the KLOM days, back in 65 or something like that. Yeah, so.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, Greg.
Okay.
Okay, now we're going to have a presentation from utility departments on Frick Springs. By the way, there are some seats up here. There looks like there's at least a half dozen or more seats up front. If you guys standing in the back want some seats. There's 4 in the second row here, a couple over here.
Bob.
Good evening,
I gotta leave.
Mayor Lingle, council members, members of the public.
Just 1 minute. I'm gonna have to leave the counter since I've been drinking that water since 1952.
Okay.
Councilmember Humdahl will be right back. He just has a little bit of a conflict because of where he lives. So. Okay, Larry.
Good evening. My name's Larry Bean. I'm the Utilities Director. Greg told you about our future. I'm going to take you back in the past a little ways. What is Frick Springs? Where is it? Why are we up there? How much does it cost? I'll try to answer those questions. Well, it's located 4.5 miles south of town, up Miguelito Canyon. It's about 6.5 miles from the water plant, and that's where the personnel that take care, maintain, and operate this system are located. Now, why are we up there? I'm sure none of us can read this piece of paper, but this is one of the original agreements that gave us rights to put a pipeline in property up there. We have numerous agreements that are handwritten like this. This is 1902, one of the early ones, right? And I found one paragraph on the second page that's somewhat interesting, that in no event shall any water be used for irrigation and no hose to be used except in case of fire. And you will not use more than 1,000 gallons of water per day. I think last time I was up here, we were talking about one person using 75 gallons a day. But they have a right for 1,000 gallons a day on this agreement. This next agreement is from the early 40s. I think it actually was 1943. Yes, 1943, I believe. And this one guarantees the owner of this property, I believe it's 2,000 cubic feet per month, which equates to approximately 500 gallons per day. So these people are using a lot of water in those days. These agreements have no ending date. We continue to honor them. Here's the little history lesson. I'll try not to read all of this, but I think interesting. In 1989, the town of Lompoc, it's board, I'm sorry, 1889. Trouble with dates here today. 1889, the Board of Trustees for the town of Lompoc went out to acquire the water rights, construct reservoirs, and lay the mains for the town of Lompoc. In 1910, they purchased what is known as Frick Springs. There's 7 springs up there, and annexed the property to the city of Lompoc. In the 60s, Miguelito Canyon Road was realigned and left the pipeline, and where it's located now on a dirt road, some of it's very hard to even access. In 1963, the city stopped using the springs for city water and went over to a well water system. 1993, the state mandated that the water delivered from the Frick Springs system must meet the federal and state surface water treatment rules. That meant the water needed to be filtered and chlorinated, essentially a treatment plant. An initial design of looking at a pump and a pipeline to the top of the hill there was estimated at $780,000 in 1994. Today, I would imagine that system would cost more on the range of $3 to $4 million to put a pipeline with pumps up the top of the hill. In 95, the city made a decision not to build the pipeline, rather to buy a packaged treatment plant, essentially a filtration system. We were able to find the cost in an old council report, but I suspect it was a bit more than that. I don't think the $114,000 included the installation and paving of the pads. 1998, stormwater washed out our vehicle crossing, and we were left with nothing but a footpath. In 2008, priced out a new vehicle crossing design at $242,000. That didn't include environmental documents and construction inspection, etc. 2009, there was another design for removing the fixed spring system and running a pipeline up, and it came in at $963,000 at that time. Still believe it'd be more like $3 million today. 2009, the footbridge was deemed unsafe, and in 2012, a new footbridge was put in, and that provides our only access to the springs. What do the springs consist of today? Well, as of this month, 3 springs were flowing, 4 of the 7 are dry. There's no water coming out, as you can imagine, with the drought we've had. The filter plant and the clear well are located between the Canyon Road and the creek. The wells are on the west side of Miguelito Creek. They consist of about 3.5 miles of 8-inch steel main. There's about 3,000 feet of yellow mine PVC, which was put in place when a hillside slid out some years back. I think it was in the storms in the early 90s. There's 25 feet of 8-inch steel main that's exposed, and there's 15 meters on that system. 2014 production was about 2.43 million gallons. Any water that's not used to go through the treatment plant does flow back in the creek and provides somewhat of a small recharge to our basin. Annual revenue from these meters is approximately $84.55 per year. This is a layout of the springs. We own approximately 15 acres. The actual springs area, that's what's on the screen, is approximately 6.7 acres. Now I'm going to run through some pictures. There isn't really much of a meeting for these other than to give you the feel of what's up there and what it takes to maintain them. This is the treatment plant and our clear well. Here's our old and our new footbridge that we access across the creek. Here's what the area of 3 of the springs look like. Pretty rough terrain. This is the Lodi Cave Spring. They're all given names. And then this one you can see is pretty hard to access on very slippery rocks. We always send at least 2 employees up there when we have to check on these springs. This is what the area looks like. We must maintain and keep it mowed and so we can access it. Here's a couple of our water storage tanks. Another spring, another type with a metal cover and piping. Same result. One of the newer covers. All right, now to the accounts. As with those agreements that I showed you with in the beginning, there are 24 water accounts with free water allowances in the canyon. There are 15 accounts that are fed by the Frick Springs system. 13 of these have free water allowances. 2 of them pay for water. There are 11 water accounts that are served by the city water system. Those are down at the north end as the road gets closer to the city. We serve them with water that comes from our groundwater and treatment plant. The water allowance challenge is to match the allowances to previous and current property owners and boundaries with respect to the current water meters. As you can imagine, properties throughout the canyon have been sold and resold throughout the years. Many of them didn't document what the water allowances were total for the property, and many of the property owners feel like they should get the total allowance that was on the original property. When we add those up, we feel that we couldn't even supply that much water with this system. So here's our standard operating procedures for required maintenance and operations. In parentheses is the hours per trip. Like I said, the gentlemen, employees, ladies leave our water plant and have a 13-mile round trip to just make driving time up there. Twice a week, the plant's checked. The recorders that record the condition of the water that are changed every 4 days. Frick Springs plant is sampled a minimum of 1 time a week, and we test the water. Plant's visited monthly for a complete maintenance check. The plant is visited monthly for an instrumentation calibration routine. The springs grounds, where the actual springs are visited monthly for maintenance of the grounds. This takes 4 to 6 hours, depending on the growth of the vegetation. Filters in the plant are washed every 8 weeks. That takes a person's 4 to 6 hours. And then, of course, when we have failures, leaks, etc., we're called out. What does this cost? Well, I've made an estimate that the water treatment plant itself, to maintain it, takes about $69,000 a year. For the water collection system, where we collect from the springs and send it down to the plant, is about $13,000. And for maintenance of the water distribution system is about $15,000 per year. So expenditures, approximately $97,780 a year. The revenue we get from the 2 accounts, and the few dollars we get when a customer goes over their allowance adds up to $84.55 a year. So it's costing us approximately $89,000 a year to operate the Frick Springs system. With only 15 customers, they should be paying about $500 a month. Well, it's free except for 2 of the customers. And then the cost to serve the 11 customers with allowances on the city water system is, if they were being billed, would be $19,400 a year. That's approximately $147 a month. So the total cost to honor these agreements that the city made with these property owners in the 1900s is $108,767. So what I've done here is try to equate to what's that costing our customers down here in town to honor those agreements. We ran 1,485 million gallons of water through our meters last year, and if we divide that by the 748 gallons per unit, we come out to about 5.5 cents per unit. Typical home uses 6 to 10 units, so our customers are paying a monthly charge of 33 to 55 cents a month to honor the Frick Springs agreement. That is all I have. We're here to answer questions. Eric Erlin helped prepare this document. Susan Segovia did the history and some of the calculations, and Jean put together the maintenance plan. Jean Marheim from the water plant.
Councilmember Mosby.
Mr. Bean.
Yes.
I want to thank you for that. I know it was a long, lengthy process, and for all you guys, I mean, you see a little packet, but there's many, many hours I'm sure it took to find all the data and information that you had to for this, and this answers a lot of questions I know that I had on this. Please make sure this gets archived for future use, so your information that you gather doesn't get lost, because it's. I know you had to dig deep. Thank you.
Eric and Susan look deep, yes.
I thank them then.
Thank you.
Councilmember Starbuck.
I'm going to mirror that, Larry. Thank you, because I think that the $90,000 disclosure is huge for us here. Now we know. The other question I have is, how many of these customers are on the original 1901 agreement, and how many times have they transferred?
We're not sure of that. We continue to ask, make requests to have them research their records. You get some funny answers.
Yeah, because it seems like some people could have just bought property and say, okay, the incentive is free water.
Well, there is a list that it resides in the utility billing that was handwritten years and years ago that does have the meter numbers and the water allowances they're supposed to get. No one that works here now created that list, so we're trying to work back from that to see if it's valid.
Do you think there's a chance that we could ever give them their own water district?
I think that would be a closed session item. City attorney comment on.
That'd be a difficult process.
So, Larry, I'll echo also. Thank you very much. I know, and Eric and Susan, a lot of work went into it, a lot of useful information. But just to reinforce to the public that's out there saying, wait a minute, why are you spending that much money to provide water for two paying customers? We are obligated to do this. Is that correct?
That's correct.
We are obligated.
We have agreements, known agreements. We have many of them.
So it may sound strange. Why are we spending this much money to provide water for only two paying customers up there? What happens if the springs were ever to go dry and there's no water up there? Are we obligated then to provide water from our groundwater?
I think I would ask you to go in closed session with your attorney again.
Okay. So well, very good. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Larry, that's twice in a row that you got applause. Okay, we're gonna take a quick break right now for 5 minutes. That is a We're going to go to oral communications. This is your opportunity to speak for 3 minutes on any item. Let me ask, how many people here to speak on the Space Center? Okay. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to divide it up a little bit. If you just have a brief comment that you can speak for 1 minute or less, why don't you line up? The people that can speak for 1 minute or less, just line up. We'll let you go first. What? Yeah. Okay, so you're all for 1 minute or less? Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Casey Farah. Hi, Council. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to kind of go quickly and explain. I have a video. It's about 12 minutes, and a number of us, about 5 of us, we're going to dedicate our time, our 3 minutes, to presenting this video. That's okay?
Okay. 5 minutes. Okay. Sure, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to do the intro of the video. Hopefully it'll work because we didn't get a chance to test it yet. So, is that all right?
Let's do the public comment first, and then we'll do the video.
Okay.
At the end, okay? Go ahead.
Hello, everybody. My name is Christopher King. For the past several weeks, I've been working towards reopening the Lompoc Valley Drive-In. I first want to thank the community for the tremendous amount of support I have received with regards to this effort. I also want to make it clear that to the residents of Lompoc community that I am here to support the city in any way that I can. As the general manager of a hotel, I understand firsthand the importance of an engaging city entrance, family-friendly activities, and a sense of community. Which is why I feel that opening the drive-in is so important for our progress as a city. While I am extremely excited at the notion of the California Space Center coming to our community, I would like to request that Ms. Blaisdell and her group of colleagues demonstrate their commitment to the city of Lompoc by urging her to first assist us in reopening the original Lompoc Valley Drive-In as a show of allegiance within our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, we're going to have everyone hold your applause. I mean, it's just going to take a long time otherwise, so just no applause for positive or negative comments. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Peter Lucero. I'm a retired Air Force after 23 years. I was enlisted and an officer. And I have my family here, and they're going to school, and I love Lompoc, obviously, like everyone. However, with the Space Center here, that's a job for me. And also, I could use my specialty as a space specialist. I have a master's degree, and I could teach, so I'd be very willing to go out there and do something great for the community, and not to mention be there at the launches more often. So it sounds like a really good thing. I really would love to see it happen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Hi, my name is Carolyn Taronis. Excuse me. And we moved here, my family and I moved here in 1964. I've had a business here. I do a lot of community service. I would love to see the theater reopen. It's been an eyesore out there for a long, long time. And I used to go with my friends in there. It was $5 for a carload to get in. A lot of fun. We had a lot of fun, and it was really, it was great at the time. I would love to see it come back. That's all I want to say. I'll do everything I can to help. I enjoy doing community service for Lompoc, and I just would really like to see it happen. That's all I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was waiting for you to say next. It's awesome. My name is Tamika Peoples. I'm a local resident here in Lompoc. I am a 10-year enlistee at the Air Force on Vandenberg Air Force Base. I'm really passionate about the mission of space, so I'm excited about the Space Consortium coming here. I hope I said that right. And there's so many opportunities from STEM education to tying that space community to Vandenberg Air Force Base. There are a lot of needs out there as well. And it's really good to hear that the movie theater is talking about opening again. However I can support that, I will. But we really need this in our community. Our children, our local community needs a space center like this. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Mike Glaze. I'm a local coach and volunteer. I coach a lot of basketball and deal with the youth a lot. And to me, this would be nothing but beneficial to our youth and helping them keep up on technology and space advancement. Also, along with the lines of the theater, it'd be great to get that going, and with EVA support, it'd be nothing but beneficial for that project also. As everyone knows, our education is falling behind worldwide, and to me, anything that helps education of kids would be beneficial to our area. And everyone in Lompoc complains about nothing to do, no revenue, and I'm not the most educated person on economics, but I find it hard to believe that this would be bad for it.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is Pete Yenham. I'm a local resident of Lompoc for over the last 2 years. I'm also the branch manager for Wells Fargo Bank, and the reason why I came out this evening is to support the Space Consortium. Looking at this, being a resident of the community, it's something where we looked at the points when they brought up in this for the Space Consortium is where we look at the youth, is to retain all that education that we have here. I've done a lot of nonprofit financial literacy at all these elementary schools to the high schools, and there's a lot of opportunities where we can retain our youth here with all that knowledge that we have instead of leaving them. And having the Space Center here will create those opportunities to keep the talented individuals that we have here in Lompoc, and this is something that being here, I think I'd love to support. So that is take a couple moments and share that with you guys. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, Council. I'm Denny Overton. I am very much in favor of this Space Center, and I believe that Eva and her team are the people to bring it here to us. For those of us who have raised our kids here and seen them go off and live somewhere else to make a living, I think this gives us one of the best chances to keep some of our kids here. Maybe not mine, but other people's kids as they come up. I think some of the fear that people have is that it's going to change the flavor and character of our town, and I think that's where our city council comes in to make sure that projects and things are not approved that don't align with what our town's about. And thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, council members, distinguished guests, my name is Rhonda Kiblinger. I'm a homemaker here in Lompoc and a mother of 2 children, ages 12 and 13 and a half. I've been a Lompoc resident the last 14 and a half years. I'm here in support of the California Space Center project. I volunteer at my children's schools and in our community. And I've had the pleasure of chaperoning the 5th grade to the Los Angeles Science Museum, but what they're lacking is an innovative space program that shows space innovation, and we have the opportunity to show that here in Lompoc that's STEM focused. We need more to do. We need to do more to compete in the global race. We are ranked 30th in developed countries in math and 22nd in science. We have an obligation to deliver space education because we have one of the finest spaceports right here in Lompoc. I'd like to keep my children here and have them employed in Lompoc as well. They excel in engineering and mathematics. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor and council members, my name is Sue Copeland. I'm a teacher at Lompoc High School, and I'm the coordinator for the Cash Business Academy, which has an entrepreneurship focus. I think this is a wonderful opportunity for our youth because we'll be expanding. This could help expand opportunities in Lompoc for entrepreneurship. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, council members, my name's Tom Davidson. I don't know if any of you know or care for that matter, but I'm an Air Force Academy graduate, rocket scientist, aerospace engineer by education. I came here in 1971 for my first launch from Vandenberg, and as such I got a chance to travel around and see a number of facilities. I don't know if any of you have ever been to the Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama. Very cool facility, has all the rockets ever been launched on display there. If they can have that in Huntsville, Alabama, we certainly can have that here in Lompoc. In my current role as a developer and real estate broker, I look at this project and realize that none of the traditional developers that we've tried to find are going to be able to make sense of this. We need somebody who can think out of the box, that has contacts and energy and so forth to make this happen. I think you have a team here in place that can do that. I think we need to vote for this. I think you all need to vote for this, send a message to the community and her team members that we're behind this. So I hope you'll do that.
Thank you, Tom. Okay. Wait. I'm going to take away all your mics. Okay. Anyone that wants to speak for up to 2 minutes? 3 minutes? Yeah, we will. Okay. Let's one person then.
Mayor, council member, distinguished guests, I'm Benjamin Kiblinger. I moved to Lompoc in 2002 to raise my family here. I see this as also as an opportunity to potentially keep them here. I love living here. When I first moved here, I thought it would just be for a couple of years and then I'd pop back to Santa Barbara. But since that time, I've gotten more involved with the community as a AYSO soccer coach, as having my own business, as a property owner, and I really enjoy what we have. One of the things that we're blessed with in Lompoc are amazing resources. We have our own water for our own agriculture. We have very fertile fields, and we leverage that to grow food to feed people. I think as a people, we have a responsibility to help other people using our assets. The spaceport is one of those assets, and we've used it to some extent, but we haven't created a space center. We've had, over 30 years to create a space center, and we haven't done it. We've needed some outside help, and now that help has shown up, and I think it's time that we accept. And I think that acceptance is overdue. There's an opportunity cost to letting this linger, and there's a responsibility to accepting the help and to making it happen. It happened in Titusville, Florida. The Kennedy Space Center wasn't built by the town of Titusville, who was named after Colonel Titus. It was built in response to there being a spaceport there. And when that happened, it changed that place. And that place had an economic boom. They had better hotels. They had a public hospital for the first time. They had aerospace jobs. Well, we have the aerospace jobs, but we don't have the tourism. We don't have a star attraction. And that's what this is. They have a star attraction there. In 2009, 1.5 million people went to the Kennedy Space Center in Titusville. Now, most people don't really know about Titusville. They know about the Kennedy Space Center. Maybe they know about Space City. Or at the time that Titusville, when everything changed and the Kennedy Space Center happened, for a while they were known as Miracle City because of the economic boom that followed the creation of that center. And that's what can happen here. I don't think that we need to be called a Miracle City. There are a lot of great things that happen here already, but we do need the California Space Center. Thank you.
Okay. Next speaker, we're going to wait on the video until all the speakers are done. Okay. Oh, you're with it. Okay. Okay, before you do that, any other one for oral communication on any subject at all? Yeah.
You want us to talk before the video, right?
Yes, I want anyone to speak on oral communications on any item at all, including the Space Center. So Terry, if you, I know. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Jane Bear. I'm a property owner and a Lompoc citizen. And I am the co-founder with my husband of Lompoc Launchpad, which is a co-working facility here in town. And Eva is a member, so that is one of my interests in this project. But it's a minor factor. I'm here to support the project. The last time I came and spoke with you, it was on February 3rd, and I said that the decision that you were making on that night was step 2 of a 1,000-step process. And honestly, this is only step 3. So all I'm saying is I know Eva. I think I know her better than all of you do, and I think she can do it, but that's really not even the point. The point is that this is the beginning of the process, and we don't want to say no at this point. The E&A, I've read it. It has a lot of assurances and evidence built into it. So I know that you all will get the evidence and the assurances that we all need to know that she really can do it. Right now, I could tell you, I think she can do it. I really do. But the E&A is what we need at this point so that she can move forward and so that we can say a big yes to anyone that wants to invest in the Space Center and in Lompoc. And I guess the last thing I would comment on is there is a concern that we're losing green space. I know from talking to the planners so far that because of the revenue streams in this model, they don't have to build out the space as much as previous developers have talked about. They don't need to push the boundaries either in size or bulk or scale. Buildings will be sleek and attractive, appropriately sized and appropriate for the content of a cutting-edge facility such as the California Space Center. The construction of the Space Center facilities will use the latest in green technologies. I met a gentleman today. I took him up to the site. He is from Hawaii, and he's talking about how he can help us with sustainability. I told him the first thing in the E&A is environmentally sensitive. This is important to us. And Eva has brought these people in before the E&A is even signed because she thinks it's important. The efficient use and the conservation of natural resources will be paramount in the operations, not only in the building, but in the operations. And Eva has a lot of good people that she's been working with to help her do that right. Again, the E&A is going to make sure that you all can make the right decisions, that you get the information that you want. And I urge you, like Tom Davidson did to send a big message to her investors and to her so that she doesn't take her Space Center somewhere else. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Council members, friends, my name is Ian Baer. I'm related to the person who spoke just before me. I have some points here that were given to me. Thank you, Ken, for the very worthy points, but I'm going to go off script because everything I have here in front of me you have heard before and you are going to hear again. And so I hope that I can say something that you may not hear again tonight. What I want to say is that I have never met anybody who is as proud to be an American as Eva is. I will imagine that everybody on this council, or almost, and everybody in this room is American by happenstance. And Eva is not. She is American by choice. She loves this country. And she loves space. And she loves the future. And she wants to bring that here. And that, to me, is pretty amazing. It's pretty phenomenal. It's pretty unlikely. And the last thing I want to say, earlier today we had a get-together, and one of our Launchpad members brought her children, and the person that, the daughter that she brought is the shyest young lady I have ever met. Doesn't speak. I'm not sure she's ever spoken in her life. At least I've never heard her speak. But Eva asked her to draw a picture of what a princess would look like in space. And we have a picture, and Jane can't show it to you because she'll cry. She has a picture of what a princess will look like in space, because Eva really means it. And I doubt we're ever going to find that again in a generation. So everybody else is going to speak to the merits of this project. In fact, I'm going to be one of them. people who speaks to the merits of this project. But I'm speaking now to the heart of this project and the heart of the person that is so invested in bringing this here. And so I hope you will send a big message to her team, and they will come here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Terry Hammonds. Well, I guess I'm the odd person out because I want you to take caution moving into this. I want you to be aware that this E&A is not clear. There have been comments made in the addendums that counter what the public should be aware of. We need to know what's going on with this project. Angel Mobile is a corporation by Ms. Blaisdell. It has been suspended in California for transacting interstate business. Indiana has administratively dissolved the corporate status of Angel Mobile. Is the addendum, this is a question I believe that the council needs to clear up tonight, is the addendum to the ENA part of the agreement? The Marston report, it goes back to Environmental Education Group, require the applicant to enter into an agreement with the developer to undertake the project as a joint venture partnership. The developer should have demonstrated experience in planning, financing, and developing multi-phase commercial and public serving projects with cost in the range of $200 million. That's what you were requiring, and that's, well, that you never required that, but that was a suggestion by Marston that you move into. The city should require and provide the city with evidence of committed equity and grant funding for the proposed project in the amount of at least $68 million. I think that's very wise. Skin in the game. Let's get it. This is part of the cost of doing business. You are in a business. You have land. They want it. As Mr. Frank said, the locus is the land when he was here to do his presentation to the council. The city should create a phased conveyance plan for the city-owned property. The land conveyance should be tied to the actual commencement of development for each development phase. And these conditions should be considered before that you move into the ENA. I think it's very wise of you to set these up so that you know where you're going before you get into this negotiation. I would recommend that the California Space Center be required to register with the California Secretary of State before proceeding with any further discussions of agreements. Then you know that it can operate in this business, in this state, and conduct interstate business. And one further thing, the California Space Center was incorporated in Delaware February 23rd, 2015. Why wasn't it incorporated in California?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so you have a 5-minute video? No. Sure, come on.
There is a approximately 12-minute video, and since we only had 3 minutes apiece, I broke it up into sections.
Okay.
Is it all right to present that?
Well, okay, so you have a 12-minute video, and how many people do you have with you? Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, this is the intro.
My name is Eva Blaisdell. I am a founder and CEO of California Space Center. Today, I would like to introduce to you a group of very amazing community members of City of Lompoc whose passion and support for my vision to bring California Space Center to your area is particularly inspiring. The country needs it. Lompoc needs it. Young people of Lompoc, the United States of America, because our space program is not doing very well. I think a major statement like the one that we are making right now can motivate our entire country to not to forget about the importance of the space mission. I also believe that I can conduit new startup companies to Lompoc and deploy all my life experience coming from being a senior executive of large companies like Compaq, where in a matter of couple of years I had to create a huge economic enterprises in the area of hundreds of millions of dollars, or as an entrepreneur who is taking the risks, where my personal relationship with global leaders, global companies could be harnessed and brought to work for us in Lompoc. I had an opportunity to have a very early morning coffee with Tim Cook, and he authorized me to send greetings to the City Council, to the City of Lompoc, and express his personal support for me as an entrepreneur who is endeavoring to make a contribution that goes beyond just making money. Enjoy looking at some of the people who live in Lompoc and who became friends and who became passionate supporters of the vision and the future of Lompoc. My name is Eva.
Right now she's out collecting the very best partners for the project. So the main components are a launch viewing area, a museum, and kind of space Disneyland, if you will. And then the educational component, which will provide space camp, for instance, for about 1,000 young people a week. Continuing education, so hopefully a 4-year school that will offer a junior-senior year program in conjunction with Hancock, and she's been working with several big-name universities that would be interested in providing that. The hotel and convention center facility with 1,000 seats for banquet, nothing like that exists on the Central Coast now. If you're a young person in Lompoc, you can go to 5th grade science camp, and then you can participate in things at the museum, and you can go to classes up there, and then when you're in high school, you can go to more classes, and then you can be going to Hancock. All this time, you can be going across the street with one of the space industry companies and mentoring or serving an internship, and then when you graduate, who are they likely to hire? They're likely to hire someone they know that's been involved in their business all this time. So it's a vertically integrated path for local youth into the space industry. It's a fun thing to have in town. It's a great set of facilities, and it's a lot of jobs. And there's also a move within the Air Force to try to downsize the amount of office space they provide to contractors. So, that would be a good way to bring tenants into the Space Technology Park. And increasingly, the launches at Vandenberg are commercial space rather than military. And again, that provides opportunities for contractors to put their offices in the Space Technology Park.
There will be nothing like that from LA, San Francisco, and as far east as you can think. It's a watershed for Lompoc, really for the entire Central Coast, and it's just amazing and thrilling that it will be located here in Lompoc. It's a place where families can come. I think this will bring people from all up and down the coast of California. STEM education is huge right now. The rest of the world is far past the U.S. Opportunities for kids to learn about science and technology, math, in an interactive way are going to be huge for kids in Lompoc, for kids in the Central Coast, again, for any family that's touring. Not just the construction jobs, not just the temporary jobs to build this, but the permanent jobs afterward. The Space Center, the jobs in the conference center, in the restaurants, in the hotels, in the convention center, in the theater. This will put Lompoc on the map in so many different ways.
Right now, she's out.
I'm Benjamin Kiblinger. I'm a digital media entrepreneur and also co-chair of the Idea Initiative for the Econ Alliance. The businesses that this is going to drive are going to be in the areas of media, which means videos, documentaries, webisodes, also technology, which means tech startups, innovation happening right here at home. It also means providing a place for companies that are in the space business to meet that's off Vandenberg Air Force Base, for meeting with customers, for collaborating with colleagues from around the globe right here in Lompoc. Attracting a world-class entrepreneur like Ava Blaisdell means that we're also winning the interest of the people that she does business with, her partners. And for the first time, we're receiving visits from Bechtel, Sony, from IMAX, and I think that's just the beginning for us. Last month, 500 people were laid off from Vandenberg Air Force Base. One of those being my next door neighbor, great friend. He's moved away from Lompoc. I think he might have stayed if there was more opportunity here. The other 499 people that were laid off, I think that we could get a good portion of those people to stay with more global business opportunities. It really makes a difference when parents can find jobs locally. There are fewer latchkey kids. Parents are able to be there for their kids. And these are the types of jobs that bring more fluency to our area and stimulate greater education and the ability for multiple generations of families to live here.
My name is Benjamin Barrick. I am the owner of New Lowe's. We offer in-house screen printing and streetwear and skateboard accessories. I think a space center would be great for the area. It could definitely benefit the youth. It can benefit commerce. It can benefit tourism. I could see a lot of good things coming from it. They want to do research and development there. And that's really cool. That's a really good thing for the college to be able to get kids involved with something like that.
My name is Ron Smith. I am the Vice President of Smith's Alarms Electronics. I think it's great. Anything that's going to help promote local jobs, I'm all about local. Jobs equals housing, equals buying, equals selling, equals helping a lot of people out.
My name is Randall Senna, and I'm the owner of Certain Sparks Music, where I'm a recording engineer, music teacher, and the owner of a guitar shop. And I think the Space Center could be something that would really define Lompoc. I hope that they do succeed. It sounds like something that could really help the community. An incredibly ambitious project. It's worth a shot, certainly.
I'm Benjamin Kibler.
Hi, my name is Julie Manicucci. I'm one of the owners of Divine Wine Bar and Bistro. We're located in Old Town Lompoc, and we are thrilled for this upcoming project. How cool would it be for 250,000 people a year to come to our Space Center and have an incredible experience and then stay here and spend their money and come and enjoy our wines and discover our murals in Old Town and understand what this town is about? I think it's just awesome. I think it is just going to be so great. I just want to encourage people to be open-minded about this because this is a huge opportunity for so many people, for jobs, for our growth for Old Town, and more businesses, more development. It really is an awesome thing, and I just hope that everybody can embrace it and see it for what it is, which is a huge opportunity for the entire town.
It'll bring the jobs that she had mentioned, I think over 3,000. It's something that the kids will be able to do to learn about space, hopefully jobs in the future, so they don't have to, go to school and then have to go away somewhere else to either get a good job or have something to do like a lot of kids here in town do.
Hi, my name is Julie Manicucci. I'm one of the owners of Divine Wine Bar and Bistro.
I'm Lisa Andre, and I'm a local writer and journalist. And I learned about the Space Center not too long ago. Quite frankly, I was really excited about it. I think it would benefit the community in so many ways. Just for instance, right behind me, you'll see that there's this really great mural dedicated to the last of the Titans, which was a missile program started in the 50s. In Vandenberg Air Force Base. The first Titan missile was used as an intercontinental ballistic missile during the Cold War. And the second Titan was used as a launch vehicle for missiles out of Vandenberg Air Force Base. That rich history alone is worth encapsulating and really showcasing, not only to the community, so many have an interest in space exploration. That old Titan missile is sitting on Vandenberg Air Force Base, and it's pretty much deteriorating because of the salt water. It's not getting a whole lot of use education-wise, and we can put that in the museum. When I was a kid, I had the opportunity, being based out of Edwards Air Force Base, because my father was in the Air Force, there was a space shuttle that had to come home, and Cape Canaveral was rained out. So, of course, Edwards Air Force Base is, I believe, either the first or second largest Air Force base in the world. So here comes this hunk of metal out of nowhere. They planned Edwards Air Force Base for the landing on the salt flatbeds that are dried out. And as a kid, that was really impressionable. I sat there thinking, okay, when's this space shuttle coming in? And out of nowhere, here's this little blip in the sky. In a matter of seconds, there was this incredible machine in front of me, just steaming hot. The astronauts couldn't come out for 4 to 5 hours because it was so hot because of entry. And I have to say that made such, again, an impression on me at a young age. You know, some part of me has always been committed to space exploration, and it is truly my honor to be here in Lompoc at this time when the possibility of bringing to the community a space center is possible. And I do understand that there are many concerns, whether it be, do these individuals, do the investors have the money they say they do? What's the carbon footprint left behind? What's going to happen to the south end of town if this comes to pass and is started on the north end of town? Those are all valid concerns. And what I do as a journalist is try to represent all possible sides of every story. It's important, if you do have those concerns, to address them and, you know, go to the Facebook page or the website for Eva Blaisdell, who is the mastermind behind this campaign, and ask her those questions. Ask the community and, you know, get involved before you say yes or no.
Okay. That's it?
There was one more. Yeah. One more final.
My name is Steve Frank. I'm an American, but I actually live in London, England, and I'm an investment banker. My background broadly is I'm from New York, went to Cornell, and then joined the U.S. Navy, and used to fly for the U.S. Navy, a couple of kinds of different airplanes. Had a chance to work at the White House part-time. After the Berlin Wall came down, I jumped out and went to a startup company in Boston, and then I went to MIT, and then eventually I went to Morgan Stanley, and I was there for about 10 years, helping companies raise capital. I've been in Europe now for 15 years, also covered the telecom space, the media space, technology space, on the high-yield junk bond desk for Morgan Stanley. I went to a restructuring firm and restructured banks, Lehman Brothers in Austria and then in Greece. Last summer, Eva Blaisdell and I connected, and her and I have been talking about this project in Lompoc ever since then. This project is pretty unique. There's a media aspect. We're going to create space-based content. There's an entertainment component, which is probably the biggest and most visible piece that the local people will see, and that will be much like a visitor center that you've seen at Kennedy Space Center or in Huntsville, Alabama, or at Houston. The third pillar is a technology aspect, and essentially we're going to use deeply immersive technologies out of the universities to help create an interactive experience for the visitors. And then the last pillar is new space research and development. New space is really about private capital looking to invest and make a return and develop innovative products and services that are with space-based applications. In order to develop this project, we'll have external investors who are aviation-related, aerospace-related, media, technology, entertainment, and that's the process that we're starting with now. This is a project which is pretty ambitious. Will have a very big, substantial impact on the local community. The key to this project is not only the vision and design, but we also need to find the money, and that's what my role is.
Okay. Okay, but now, were you part of the program there, right? Yeah. Okay, good, okay. Okay. That's good.
I'm Steve Frank. I was the guy in the movie. I'm back in Lompoc my third time from London. I won't add anything. You've already heard my background, those kind of things. But there are a couple things that are quite important that we'd like to emphasize. One is when it comes to raising capital for a project like this, there needs to be a clear path to getting title, to this land. So I think that as long as we've talked about this with the city attorney, that's a key aspect, and that's something that when investors, when they look at this project, will want to know. I mean, what is the path to getting the title to the land? So that's one thing. The second thing that they'll ask is, They'll get a lot of information. We will give them a lot of information. They'll look at the ENA, certainly. Of course, it's in the public domain, but there's a lot of other things like business plans and EISs and that kind of issue. But one of the issues they'll ask for is, what is the vote of the city council? I'm almost done, so I won't use up those 3 minutes. But what is the vote of the city council? And that's something that people will pay attention to. The risk that investors will see, we're going to start to raise, assuming that you vote to go forward, we'll start to raise, some serious money, and this money is private risk capital. So this money is it's not a loan, it's money that we need to go out to investors and attract, and it's at risk. And one of the issues that they will have is that if the vote is, let's say, 3-2, for instance, that they'll be concerned that, okay, 3-2, you got it through, but if you go down 6 to 9 months down the road and we have the final vote, and just one person swaps out their vote, then we've lost, and we've lost all that money we put into this. So that's one of the things we wanted to bring up. One of the issues the gentleman talked about earlier, one of the concerns, some of those things are, quite valid. As to why it was formed in Delaware versus California, a lot of people form corporations in Delaware. It's just a more efficient place to do that kind of thing. So. And lastly, there's a lot of breaks, I think, in the ENA. We need to come back to you a number of times and show you and talk to Teresa and her team, the city attorney, to make sure that everyone is up to speed on where we are, and there's certain wickets and that we have to jump over to kind of get to the next level. So my view is this is really a risk, for the next 150 days is one wicket, and then there's about a 240-day wicket after that. So it's really a risk for the next, 7 to 8 months or so. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to close oral communication, and we're going to be discussing your project, and you'll be able to discuss during the project, okay? So we're going to go now to unfinished business, which is the exclusive negotiating agreement, and we're going to bring up our Economic Development Director, Assistant City Administrator, Teresa Gallivan. And Eva, you'll have your opportunity to speak then.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, audience, and viewers. As has been mentioned by some of the speakers this evening, on February 3rd, the council directed staff to negotiate an exclusive negotiating agreement with Ms. Blaisdell on behalf of the California Space Center, and we did accomplish that in those 90 days. Council directed that verbally we came to an agreement within those 90 days on the edits in the language in the ENA. Council did direct that one of the first benchmarks the group would need to meet in the ENA is to provide all of the information that was requested in the RFQ process. So that is one of the very first benchmarks within 30 days of the ENA that the group must meet. The group, one of the speakers mentioned the addendum that was added to the ENA, and I just want to give a little background as to why that is there. The California Space Center group asked that we use the addendum instead of the language that we had put in there regarding the RFQ and the documents that we asked for. And to go ahead and move forward and reach an agreement, we included the language the city had proposed and the addendum that the group proposed in order to move this forward. So that's why you see the addendum in addition to the language the city requested. Also, the council directed us to include in the ENA the provision for the California Space Center group to cover the cost of city staff time, so that once the ENA is started. So that provision is in the language of the exclusive negotiating agreement. And as I mentioned, all parties agreed upon the final language edits within the 90-day timeline. Some of the things that were discussed that I want to share with you that were changed during the process of the ENA, because we were directed to use the template of what we used with the environmental education group. So that is the ENA document that we used as a starting point. And through discussions of negotiating the final agreement, certain benchmarks in the 365 days. There were some changes in the timelines for certain benchmarks, but it is all still within the 365-day timeframe that council directed us to use. And the other, which is an important one that Steve Frank mentioned, is the group felt very strongly that the language of a potential lease as the mechanism for the property be removed. So at some point after the ENA, if we go through the ENA process and all the benchmarks are met, then we would discuss a development disposition agreement for land conveyance. And our original ENA draft included the option of a lease, a long-term lease. They expressed that that would really not allow the project to receive the financing they are needing, and that that was a stumbling block. So at this point, the lease portion has been removed. However, there are other securities that the city does have that can be put into a development disposition agreement in regard to that. And I'll let the city attorney give you a little more insight into some of those options. Furthermore, we are awaiting evidence of the California Space Center's ability to do business in California and Ms. Blaisdell's authority to sign this document. I understand that process has been started. However, to date, we don't have all of those documents that demonstrate her ability to do that. So that's one more comment, and I'd just like to see if Mr. Pannoni would like to add any other additional information, and he's been so instrumental in making this, getting us to this stage.
If I may, just for one purpose of clarity, as the council knows, but to make sure everyone understands, this ENA doesn't commit the city to anything. What it does, it says the city will, for a 365-day period, agree to work with the proposed project proponent to come up with an approach that will result in the project that everyone's been discussing actually happening, and no land that the city owns would be conveyed until there was certainty that that was going to be done. And even after the land's conveyed, there will be protections put in the conveyance documents that if the plan doesn't go the way the city anticipates it going by the agreement it entered into, the city would have the ability to get the land back.
That's it?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Blaisdell, if you want to come up and...
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council, Ms. Alvarez, Patrick, Teresa, and Lompoc people. First of all, I continue to be very appreciative of the opportunity to be engaged in this incredibly important dialogue on making California Space Center happen. I was going to talk to you about what I've been doing last 2 weeks, that I went to NASDAQ, pre-announced an opportunity. I met with the venture capital people in Silicon Valley. I've conferred with Steve, who agreed to come, that we have all the things aligned, because we do. But after hearing such a passionate speeches from you, you brought back to me the key reason why I am here. And thank you so much for acknowledging that I am a proud American citizen, because I am. By the way, there are letters of invitations coming to you from the Major General of Polish Air Force, who wants to collaborate with the city of Lompoc, because the collaboration between both countries are becoming very important. So I am trying to gel a lot of activities here. Now, very quickly, I want to thank Mr. City Attorney for holding our hand through the process, and it's very, very important. And just want to clarify that the missing document that was indicated is because the electronic signature that I provided on all the documents for the state of California was temporarily rejected. They wanted my so-called wet signature, and I provided information today that it will be done in a matter of 2 to 3 days. So it was just a technicality. Delaware corporations are formed for the purpose of fundraising significant amount of money and are highly preferred by public and private investors. That's why I chose to do that. That's a prescribed matter. We formed the company in the way so it's a vehicle to service our transaction. I want to look at Mr. Vega, City Council Vega, and just tell you that in the process of engaging with the community, we realized and we felt that we very much want to embrace Hispanic community as part of the process. And I just wanted to make a personal appeal to you. We were looking for the Spanish translator for our documents and the city information. And on the short notice, we have not located one, but we want to have one for the future. I am making this statement because this project is very much about investment, money, investors, technology, IMAX, Sony, Apple. But ultimately, it is about our community. And I am here pledging to you that the incredible support that I feel from all of you is because I think people are feeling my sincere commitment to your city and to those values. I also want to communicate commitment with some incredible people that are looking at us today. And Steve alluded to some of the investors. Yes, they're watching because they will be passing judgment on us as a team. Are we together representing a fair risk and fair opportunity to grant us responsibility for a lot of money that I am willing to accept responsibility for on our behalf? This is why I am here standing in front of you requesting a 100 support in a decision to enter into exclusive negotiating agreement, which again, as Mr. City Attorney mentioned so pointedly, doesn't commit you to anything. It just creates a productive environment for entering into the process where I, my partners, and those who will bring forward will be in a position to provide you with sufficient information. We need your 100% support so we can send a strong signal to those guys that I was talking to at NASDAQ or Silicon Valley that city is behind it. Otherwise, we'll represent a too big risk for some of them. So it's on behalf of our shared interest. I also want to convey something that was mentioned in the video. Name of Tim Cook flew by. I had the privilege and pleasure to have a really fun meeting with Tim. Tim is the most admired CEO in our country. Tim runs Apple. And the reason that he and I talked about Lompoc, and the reason that he authorized me to share with you that he supports a woman entrepreneur in the quest to join the effort with you to create California Space Center is because of all the things that you already mentioned. He believes that we are in a position to implement incredible project for the education, for advancement of this country. And of course, he knows that I know how to use Apple technology as a part of it. But at the same time, he's just like you and you. He is a very unique human being that you know decided to give away all his money, all his personal money, to the causes that have to do with education and progress of women entrepreneurs, progress of minorities. So I just want to tell you that my discussion with Tim is not only about hardcore business, it is about having an opportunity for us to give something to the community. Those are type of the people that I am addressing at this stage of the project, not a hardcore investment bankers from Wall Street who would come and monetize you and me. We will get to them. But when the Space Center will have valuation of $1 billion, right now we are handpicking investors who are just like us. Yes, we have to make money. Yes, I know how to make money. I am an entrepreneur. I am responsible for financial results. But we are also here to change the community. and we will seek like-minded people to be on our team, and you have my commitment to it. And I am so very happy that Steve is here, because he's here on his personal risk, investment, and expertise, because he's here also to assure this process. So, well, what have we done recently? I met with IMAX people. Mr. Mayor asked me a question about IMAX. Let's talk a little bit about it, because we have our partners now in effort, a very dedicated group of citizens who want the movie theater to come back. When I came to Lompoc and looked at that Space Center land, I immediately noticed the theater, and Ken is somewhere here, so he knows that it's been on my mind from the very beginning, but the theater needs a huge revenue footprint. We need like $20 million to make it happen. Space Center can adopt, you're saying probably less. Well, we have some frivolous technology in mind also. But anyway, IMAX demonstrated to me, ladies and gentlemen, let me just share the excitement, the newest technology that is so-called laser screens with surround sound, and they demonstrated to me by showing launch of the rocket. If you see launch of the rocket on the newest IMAX screens, you will know that people will come to Lompoc to watch launch of the rocket and then watch it on the IMAX screens. Guess what? Today at 3:30 a.m., there is another rocket launch. We want those launches to bring money to you, to the community, for all the right reasons. I will make it happen. Today, I signed an agreement, and I didn't want to overwhelm Mr. Mayor as my point of contact in sending him a lot of information, but today, I signed an agreement with one of the most prominent music production company and a promoter to bring stars to our town for the concerts built around the launch of the rockets. Nothing like this happens anywhere. And in this letter of commitment, you will see some cool names: Elton John, Rocketman, and Rihanna. And this is all the people that my partners have under contract. We can place this company in Lompoc. I am giving you an example that this is not only a project that, like the past projects, lives on the pieces of papers. I'm not just producing documents. I'm producing revenue streams. I am planning for them, and revenue streams that can happen fairly quickly. I could go on, because I am vested, I'm risking my own money, this entire year-and-a-half process, which I left everything else I was doing. I'm not drawing any salaries, I don't work for anyone. I am like you, entrepreneur, who chose to risk her own money to finance this stage of the process, and probably a big part of the ENA. ENA will put responsibility on us to spend probably about $1 million. As a part of it, we are prepared to do it. We know how to fundraise very big money for this project. We have a vision, we have technology. Bechtel works for me. Bechtel works for me. Bechtel was here 2 weeks ago. I went to the San Francisco headquarters. We have a deal. My next stage will be to negotiate with them that we start company in Lompoc that will combine their strength in our project as a new development company. I am available offline. I am available for the separate meeting to discuss with you the details. I know that there were some letters of support coming from University of Southern California, who is already developing for us avatar technology, immersive technologies, etc. So this California Space Center is happening. I am asking for your unanimous vote to allow us to work even harder, clarify the ENA process wherever we have to, but this will open the gates to the next process of answering all the questions that you and others might have at this stage of our process. I want to thank also Mr. Dana Newquist and his wife. I hope he will have a chance to speak, but Dana is a prominent leader of Santa Barbara County community and businesses, and he's here as a representative of entire Santa Barbara County. Dana has known me for a few years, and I've earned his trust and support because Santa Barbara County is also excited for us. And perhaps I would like to ask Dana for a moment to speak, if I may. Thank you very much.
Mayor, council members, and ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dana Newquist from Santa Barbara. I've held many elected positions on many boards. My life path has allowed me to dine with many luminaries, Gates, Wozniak, Jobs, Markula, and many others, and now Eva. She is the real deal. It takes a visionary, and I've met very few, and you will meet very few in your lives, that has the ability to put together so many talents to make something this gigantic happen and work. But I believe that she has those connections, and it's not just local connections, which are extremely important, but it takes global connections. And yes, it takes money. She's got all those things. And I will help her, and I hope you will help her in this quest to do something very important for this community. And thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now you all lost your microphones now. Okay, Ev, if you want to come back up, we're going to have some questions for you. Now, Eva, you had mentioned that the Space Center is coming in. We believe that Lompoc will have a Space Center someday. We believe that. We hope you're the person that's going to bring it to us. Down deep in our hearts, we all hope that. So you're going to hear some probing questions today. Don't take them personal. We have to really get into being real comfortable, okay? So we're gonna have some tough questions for you. We're gonna make some decisions. So I'm gonna see, Councilmember Starbuck, why don't you start us off?
Hello, Eva.
Hello, Councilman.
Like the mayor had said, we've not been in communication, but I do have some concerns. What happens is, you know, we'd had the 120-day period for the RFQ. You were the only submittal. There was a lot of information lacking. And our staff was not willing to go forward due to the lack of information. February 3rd, this council put our skin in the game. We turned the corner and we directed staff to work with you on the ENA. This has been over 100 days. And when I check with our staff, there's been no input of any new information in this period, which I think as a council, we're looking to see. The new incorporation happened 20 days after that council meeting. There's still no information on who is on this board. Who are we dealing with? Is it solely Eva? Are you the sole proprietor in this LLC? Are all these other people involved? We don't know the status. There's nothing for us to go back and look at. One of the speakers mentioned Angel Mobile, and then I go online and it shows up as a suspended company. There's little flags that keep popping up, and I'm concerned with them, and I wanted to bring those up tonight and up front. Once this ENA is enacted, then the time clicks. There is a point then where if it's not met, we say goodbye. I've been involved with several space attempts before. This is the third, so I have reason to be suspicious, but I want to be supportive. Who are we going to be dealing with here when this ENA is signed, I guess would be the first question. Who is on this board?
Thank you very much for your questions. I also regret that I believe this is due to the process. I am not supposed to communicate with the city council. So because of that, and only because of that, you were not kept informed about the process. I would have been delighted to make you aware about my meetings in...
Well, what happens tonight, Eva, is going to be for everybody in Lompoc to hear.
Yeah,
this is
that's
the public,
fine.
And we
So-
want to function in this light, you know.
Yeah, so I appreciate your questions and I welcome them. There is a immediate and open ability for me to address those questions. I am a business person. I'm an investor. I'm putting my own money into this project. I am reshuffling my venture an arrangement with the big corporations to bring them to Lompoc. I am doing what all of you probably have done in your life, which means trying to meet a lot of demands in the most cost-effective but impactful way. The company was incorporated in Delaware based on the advice of my counsels and others that I seek advice on, as a statement of seriousness of purpose, because a mom-and-pop restaurant or a local software development company can incorporate in California. However, if you plan to do fundraising through the professional large-scale institution, Delaware is the only state that those people will accept, because it legally protects the shareholders from unnecessary legal claims, confusions. Any legal cases, in the case of Delaware company, are transparent. So this is a requirement, number one, of serious investors. Number two, I've commissioned the company that specializes in doing the incorporation in California a few weeks ago to get the document. And I went to so-called the best, fastest. And I have emails to prove it. Yesterday, they informed me, because I was guaranteed I will have information by yesterday, they informed me that there is technical gotcha because of my signature, didn't you know. So that's the only reason. And who is in the company? Right now, the people who form the company are the ones who are listed. There is no hidden information. I have additional shareholders. Some of them require or ask me to remain private. We are happy to provide this information, but you mentioned it's going to go to the public domain. I sent a request to some of them asking if they are prepared to disclose their names. This is nothing to hide. They are very fine people, but my agreement was that they would prefer to remain private. You will not deal with anyone that is not vetted, not known to you. There is no hidden agenda. There's no hidden arrangements made. We are very happy to disclose the current shareholders as soon as we can provide private information to you directly. I have to check with them if they are ready to disclose, to go on the public domain. The shareholders' agreements are usually private documents that regulate or rule the dealings between private investors. I am obligated by that to deal with it at this stage. But there is no reason not to disclose. Steve and I talked about it this morning, that if it's necessary, we'll do it, but we would prefer to do it in a privacy instead of blasting their names.
I think that maybe in the world of confidentiality, that could be done through the city. You know who you're doing business with. We don't know who we're doing business with.
Okay, so we can conclude that as an action item, we can provide you with this information now. Both ENA and the operating agreement, it's not shareholding agreement, it's an operating agreement because this is LLC purposely at this stage, are both investment documents. Quality of ENA and some of the verbiage that we requested, and we're very pleased that Mr. Attorney and Teresa included in addendum, was the verbiage signifying importance and solidness of this business arrangement. Because we have to disclose ENA to the investors. If they look at this as a document that doesn't meet my business model requirements, that doesn't incorporate bigger scope than just building the buildings, we will not be as successful in securing all the funds.
When do you want to sign the ENA?
Now, ladies and gentlemen.
Do you have that legal ability right now to sign it?
Well, according to my advisors and I have to take also coaching from our city council, from our city lawyer. Based on the documents I provided, I am listed as a person, as a managing partner of LLC, which entitles me to signing the document.
Councilmember Humdahl.
Following up on that, in one of the discussions someplace, you'd be ready in 2 to 3 days. Why aren't you ready today? some signing some documents or saying the ability to sign you'd be ready in 2 or 3 days.
Well, because I cannot
Give you 90
control judgment call of State of California, who made the judgment call that my signature, which was perfect, for some reason didn't meet their quality. You know what? Whenever there are big deals, things like this usually happen to the good people. Bad things happen to good people. I was ready. I complied with the processes. I paid the fines. I submitted documents several weeks ago. It was a total surprise. They were guaranteed to me to arrive on Monday. And this happened. But I am ready with what? I am ready with a funding strategy. I am ready with the meetings with the IMAXs. I am ready meeting with Sony. I am ready with meetings with people who are really going to build it with me. I just came back from Silicon Valley. You know, frankly, I am covering a lot of ground for us ahead of the schedule before I have anything in my hand. I have zero now yet. I am asking for ENA. I don't have a land. I will not have a land. Everything that I am doing is based on my private, personal commitment and investment and trust in our relationship.
I got a couple questions.
Go ahead.
Teresa.
Oh, sure. Okay, we're going to ask Teresa, but you can stay there.
Okay. Teresa, one of the comments we had here was that what's the 366 days? If it passes, you said, what's the next thing? It says 300.
So if the benchmarks are met through the 365-day ENA period, then we would be discussing a development disposition agreement.
Also, you said something about no lease agreement?
Correct. The California Space Center Group lease was in the original template terms that the disposition of the property or the conveyance of the land could be a long-term lease or some other form of conveyance. And the group felt strongly that a long-term lease would affect their ability to finance the project. So that portion of the option was taken off the table. It is up for your consideration. And I asked Mr. Pannoni if he'd like to elaborate.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, first I want to make sure, I know I'm not, and I'm sure Teresa's not doing it either. We're not here to advocate one way or the other. We're here to answer questions that you ask. So I don't want anybody to feel that when I answer a question, it's as if I'm trying to convince you of something. I'm not. I'm just giving you the facts. As we all know, this project will take a lot of money to be created. And the investors, and it's not unusual for investors to want to know that there's something solid that their money is tied to. Under California law, you can only lease property for 55 years. Now, to you and me, that's a long time, but to a person putting a big chunk of money in, that's not necessarily long enough. And so because there's that restriction, the proponents, the CSC proponents, asked if we could consider taking the lease part out, the language of lease, because when their investors would see that, they'd say, ooh, it could still be a lease. So what we did is we took the lease language out, knowing that there's still, you're not committing to anything today or by signing the CNA, and knowing there's protections that if ultimately the deal is put forward and ultimately land is going to be conveyed, it'd be conveyed in fee title, and there'd be restrictions on the use of it, there'd be milestones that had to be met, and ways for you to get the property back if those milestones weren't met. And we felt that provided sufficient legal protection to take the lease out, knowing the lease was going to be difficult for the financing. It's totally up to you on whether or not you want to include the lease language or not.
I'll wait. I got some more.
Okay. Councilmember Mosby.
Even in this ENA, there's a lot of serious hard dates in here and times. You've got 30 days for a deposit. You got 150 days for a master plan to be approved. You have 210 days for a pro forma, 240 days for your financing structure. And are those all benchmarks? I mean, there's serious benchmarks that are out there. And of course, I'm sure you read this more than once, but there's the 45-day buffer that goes in through there, or you come up against a hard termination. So it's just, this is a, and I want the public to understand as well too, this is a serious document. We're not taking this lightly. I mean, there has been question about that in the past, and after dancing, Councilmember Starbucks danced a couple times before, but on getting this project done, and this is hopefully the third time's the charm here. But there's, I just want you to make you aware there are these hard dates, hard times up here.
Yes.
Hard numbers.
This is a Formula One speed. I am not talking Indy 500 or NASDAQ. This is a big speed. And it would be impossible to meet this deadline and prohibitively costly if I were to wait for ENA to be signed to start on those milestones. But I've been working toward them for quite some time. When Bechtel was here in town, and some of you met with them, the result of this visit and the revisit of the land, and then my subsequent trip to San Francisco to their headquarters, was a discussion, a decision, because good news is I am not going to do that. I hired the best people to do that. So Bechtel is in a position to meet those deadlines. They've worked with me for quite some time. They already provided the documents. So I have a head start. Otherwise, those deadlines remain to be very challenging. Projects like this take 5 to 10 years to make happen. 5 to 10 years. I am committing to those deadlines because I've been working on this project for a year and a half. And I am coming to it armed with global relationships, with a commitment, with the fact that we've been spending money on this project for the last year and a half. So we have a head start. This is why I signed this document. And all my travels, all the effort out there have to do with selecting the best, getting their commitments, and having the team in place to execute it. So I would say probably this is as good team as you can find with the commitment to you and the city and expertise to do it. You know, when I was hired by Compaq, they hired a woman because they couldn't find a man who would go behind a Berlin Wall and start building a business with their own hands. So they hired me and they told me in 6 months, Compaq must be #1 company in that region. I started from zero, and in 6 months, I was running at $50 million revenues. In that dollars, it would be probably $200 million in revenues with 8 people. If there is someone who can do it, I can do it in my team, and I am committed to do it. I am committed to us doing it, because this is a team effort, and I need your support today and your vote, so I don't have to delay. There are, engines humming out there. I have to call Bechtel and tell, boys, we are in or not. So thank you for your good question.
Councilmember Vega.
Hey, Ms. Blaisdell.
Hello.
Everyone I've spoken to, everyone believes in the American dream and being an entrepreneur, okay? My concern is being in the real estate business and finance is I've never seen a process like this where someone can come in and pretty much sell themselves and sell everything and inspire everything, and it's a compliment to you in one way. In the other way, I've never seen it without any skin in the game, so to speak, except for your own personal investment, okay? So basically, I guess my questions are with respect to timeframes, and we have a $25,000 deposit that would be with the city. I mean, has anyone, or maybe my question is the LLC putting up that money, or is that a secret also? And also with the investors and all your shareholders, is there anyone that's willing to step up to the plate as far as you know, that's willing to verify that there's skin in the game right away after, if this ENA was signed, okay? It's one of my questions here, because, you wait for this amount of time. That's not the way I'm used to doing business, okay? And I understand this is a large dream, but people are concerned.
Councilman Vega, skin has been in the game the moment that I decided to do it. We're talking about very substantial funds that have been committed. We are talking about technology that is in some case priceless, in some case hundreds of thousands of dollars. I can produce documents if needed from senior executives of IBM pledging money because they want me as their client to develop new applications on their Watson system. I am a Silicon Valley person. We know how to finance early stage endeavors. I would never undertake this project if I had to rely only on a real estate deal. We need the land to make sure that this project is in Lompoc. But it's not the value of the land or real estate that is going to drive the commitment. The skin in the game is here. I have capable investors. Some of them are sitting here in this room. Some of them have their representatives here. Again, I am very happy to disclose the information in a more confidential way. All of us have a skin in the game. People who are in this room provided their own money. I have meetings with venture capital. Today I agreed to join the most exclusive investors club in Silicon Valley because I'm ready to agree to take their money. That's the other way around. I interviewed them. We are a very important project. The space industry is being born. There is going to be massive amount of funds. The Senate is appropriating massive amounts of funds. There is a lot of sources of funding. I interview investors. That's the other way around. And I know how to do it. And I know how to value the enterprises at the early stage. So you have my assurances that the best of the breed will come into focus here. Silicon Valley, where a company has no revenues, no profits, but can have valuation of $1 billion. And then method of fundraising, which is established on the more mature real estate type of funding that Steve is bringing to the table. And we are marching in parallel. And that's why we are bold enough and committed enough to make it happen. And this is the only way it's going to happen. The value of the land, value of real estate is never going to finance California Space Center in Lompoc. Just like Dana said, out-of-the-box approach, visionary approach, ties to Silicon Valley can lift it off the ground. Otherwise, sorry, good luck, but value of the land is not going to get us the project. So I hope I respectfully answer your question. I'd be very happy to collaborate linear on your expertise when we get into the right stage.
You know, and I appreciate all your energy and enthusiasm, but you know, what my question is, has the city been, or I don't know these answers here, does the city have any of this documentation that you have investors that have pledged funds, or if that's for Teresa or Mr. Weimiller or Mr. Pannoni, to see that we do have some verification of some background check of some people that have pledged, other than just say, I know you, I like you, I love you. You know what I mean? And I'm saying this with all due respect because I do appreciate the dream, but I have to ask these hard questions because it's a big decision. And also my other question would be, is there any loss to the city by moving forward with this ENA? Any loss financially or any other time besides the time spent if this thing doesn't come into fruition? So that would be my question, which I'm not sure who can answer this, okay?
As to that last question, there's a provision in the ENA that requires a deposit of $25,000, and that money is to be used to pay the city's costs as the ENA proceeds. And when that money gets down to $10,000, it has to be another $15,000 has to be deposited to keep that $25,000 there available.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. But my question is, on the other side, any verification of any pledges of funds or anything else? The $25,000 is relatively small in my estimation. Have we pre-qualified to find out where that money is coming from? In most cases, we usually find where the income stream is because we're signing on with a company that's an LLC, but she does not yet have the authority to do business in California, as of yet.
That last thing you said is true, and we're not recommending that the ENA be signed until that proof is shown. With regard to the issue of whether we verified who's going to give the $25,000, There's nothing in the agreement that requires that. I don't see a need to know who's giving the $25,000. I'm not saying that's not something you may not want to find out, but the point of the ENA and the point, as we understood, was that the city didn't want to expend any of its own money on processing this during the ENA, and so if we had that money put up front, the city wouldn't be spending any of its money. It really, I mean, I suppose if it was coming from a drug cartel or something, we probably wouldn't want to do that, but...
No. So are we
Or
gonna,
Bitcoin.
Is it going to come in by suitcase?
I
I guess that's my
recommend
question.
Bitcoin.
They'd have more money.
Councilman Vega, I appreciate you drilling this particular, but to pledge something, one has to pledge against something. Right now, the only thing that I could pledge against is sign ENA as an intention of seriousness of purpose that you plan to provide something that I can fundraise against, which is land, with plus the business plan, plus the vision. Right now, I am pledging my technologies and my ventures as substance that is valuable in one place called Silicon Valley. Plus, we have private investors who would like to be included in the deal at this stage. Again, ENA is designed to open the kimono and to sit behind the closed door and disclose all this information. The only thing that we are asking for is to give the citizens of Lompoc an opportunity to see that we agreed to collaborate so you can verify that you are satisfied with all the information. And like it was said, there is no risk, there's an opportunity to not to send all these people home saying, okay, so what happened today, but say, okay, ENA process is here, so I can have a process to provide you with this information, and I can be justified in spending more money on organizing all this information. And agreeing to taking someone's money, you know, being a businessman, that if you take someone's money, you have responsibility for it. Right now, I need parameters from you in order to make those commitments to the people out there. There's plenty of money, let me tell you.
Well,
That's
thank
for
you.
sure.
Thank you for thinking. And thanks, Joe. I appreciate you saying you're not recommending moving forward until she has the ability to do business in California. Is that correct or not for the ENA?
I said I'm not recommending that the ENA be signed before we get that proof.
But you can vote today to do that. And I can deliver document in 2 days.
That's a good point, and I know there's two other council members that'd like to speak again, but that's a good point, because you said you could provide the documentation in 2 to 3 days. There's
Yes.
a technicality. So one of the, Mr. Pannoni, please join in. One of the options we have tonight is to conditionally approve an ENA. So we as a council, if we conditionally approve it, then in the 2 to 3 days, a week, whatever it takes, you don't have to come back to us again. That's if we're satisfied with everything else. Is that a possibility, Mr. Attorney?
That's true. I'm assuming what you meant by conditionally is conditioning it on the proof that the company can operate in California and proof that whoever's going to sign it on behalf of that company is authorized to sign it.
Correct, because now you indicated that you think you're authorized, but you need proof. So I mean, this is what is a possibility for us. We give you conditional approval based on those two items, as opposed to you getting it, we refile for our 10 days, you come back to us in 2 weeks or a month or something like that. Okay.
Yes.
So that's one of the options we have. Okay. Councilmember Humdahl.
Yeah, just one question, and the top of here, the executive negotiation agreement, this ENA is entered into by the City of Lompoc, a municipality corporation, and the California Space Center, LLC. Who is that? Just you, or you got other board members? Who's signing this? I mean,
Well, the LLC was formed by me for the purpose of entering into the ENA process and will exist if we enter into this process. Once I have an agreement that we are getting into ENA process, I have a seriousness of purpose that justify incurring incremental, substantial expenses of organizing additional operating agreements, etc. Operating agreement is under the development as we speak. So right now, you are looking at me and my family trust members who provided majority of the funds, and I have 2 shareholders present in this room who will be listed and included. The board of directors is something that will be awarded to the investor that we will secure based on the progress of exclusive negotiating agreement. I have no intentions of loading up with money ahead of the schedule before we reach a next stage of the agreement, and I have a reason to accept responsibility for substantial amount of money.
Teresa, where does it put you in your department of what we're talking about right now?
As mentioned, there is one of the first benchmarks is they would have to go ahead and put forward funding to cover staff costs once the ENA is signed. So in that regard, the city is covered there. The first 30 days, we would expect to see the first benchmark met, and there will be some investment in time in reviewing all the materials that were brought forward as part of the response to the RFQ.
Councilmember Mosby, I'll get to you in a second. Teresa, that's a real good point. Just so the public that has not had the opportunity to read the ENA, would you just go through and read off the hard deadlines that they will have to meet over the next 365 days? And at any point, if these deadlines are not met, the city could give 45 notice to withdraw from that. So.
Okay, so within the first 30 days, they have to provide the responses to the RFQ that we did not previously receive. And within also those 30 days, the city has the responsibility to provide them an updated title report. Within the first 60 days, the group also will be responding to the addendum that they provided. So there's a 30-day mark. There's 2 30-day marks, not only the response to the RFQ, but the deposit. So that's the very first benchmark. Second is the addendum. Third is the conceptual master plan, which would be comes a little over 5 months later. So then we have a period where they'll be working very diligently on their conceptual master plan, which is a pretty extensive document, including detail and proposing phasing of the master plan. The pro forma then follows at about 7.5 months. So within 7.5 months of entering this agreement, they have to come forward with a detailed pro forma that shows the fiscal feasibility for all aspects of the proposed project. Then following that, at about 8.5 months, they need to submit evidence of financing, the financing structure, preliminary commitments, demonstrating that they can and will obtain the necessary financing in an amount sufficient to pay for the development, operation, and maintenance of the proposed project. So those are the really big benchmarks that come up in the first 9 months. And when the pro forma and the conceptual master plan come forward, or if council desires to do so, we could do so sooner. We would bring in a group, Kaiser Marston, that is familiar with the previous proposals of this project, and they do review the pro forma and the financial and the master plan in order to look at the viability of that, and that is a very crucial component of the review process.
Thank you. And Ms. Blaisdell, someone had mentioned you've already read it. You've read it several times. You probably have memorized this. So you say you are comfortable with all those timelines.
Well, I wouldn't say like I'm relaxed comfortable. This is a tall order, but if there is anyone who can meet it and agree to it, it's I and my team.
Okay, good. Councilmember Mosby.
Yes, this is for the city attorney. It seems one of the biggest question here is risk. And in reading this document as such, it seems like that was one of the significant accomplishments you got here was limiting the risk. And what do you think that the city has, if we go through with this document, really risk. On the larger scale, I mean, there's always smaller little.
I'm going to answer that with two points of view. From a legal point of view, I don't think I'm not concerned at all at legal risk on the city if this ENA were approved and signed, once we get all the proof that it can be signed. If you want, I'll add sort of non-legal input as to what I think a risk could be. A risk could be that the outside world, if it doesn't work, the outside world will go, it happened again in Lompoc.
If you don't sign, it will happen again the same way. If you don't sign.
Mike, where'd you guys find those mics again? Come on.
And media is watching, by the way. This is why it's so important.
Councilmember Vega.
Again, Eva, I applaud you for your energy and your enthusiasm. My thing is, the people expect us to put some sort of benchmarks down so that they can know that we have a handle on this process. Apparently this was put on the agenda and you were just notified that you did not have the ability to sign for business in California, is that correct?
No,
Business California. What was this? I was wondering how this got on the agenda with you.
My
not having the ability
signature
to
was
sign.
not accepted by State of California, which requested so-called wet signature instead of electronic signature. And based on my legal counsel, I supplied the documents that identify as a person able to sign as a managing partner of the California. The other document that could verify it is so-called operating agreement, which is a complex 50 pages document that we are in the process of developing. And seriously, I was waiting for a decision today to see if we should even go forward. I am talking about another thousands of dollars in legal fees, and I know that you probably wouldn't do it if you didn't know if you have reason to do it. And I'm looking for the reason to do it today by your vote.
I understand. I just was wondering, what do we lose by waiting till you have the ability to sign, or?
According to the people I seek legal advice, I have an ability to sign. I have ability to sign, but I am referring to Mr. Council of the City in that I was not provided any additional information or documents that would verify that. And
Councilmember Vega, I think we can address that if we move forward with the conditional approval. It would be completely conditioned on her ability to prove that she has a corporation legal to operate in California and she or someone else is a legal signature.
With regard to the who can sign, I can make that clearer right now. We received the documents from Delaware that were filed in Delaware saying who the managing members are. When you create an LLC, you really don't have what's called a board of directors, which you have are managing members. And the LLC document that I saw that was filed in Delaware, that's a valid document, shows that there's 3 managing members. My conservative approach to things is, unless I see something that authorizes one of those 3 to sign, I would want all of those 3 to sign. So if one of the conditions, if you conditionally approve it, then from my perspective, I would either need to see something from the LLC signed by all 3 of those members saying one of the members has authority and the member having that authority could be Ava or one of the others. If I don't see a document that says that, I won't feel comfortable unless all 3 of those managing members sign that document.
Ms. Blaisdell, I mean,
yes, I can deliver this document that I am the single authorized party immediately.
Okay, so you'd have to, if that's, I'm only speaking for myself.
I
right
appreciate, yes.
If we were to give you a conditional approval,
yes,
you'd have to provide all that before this is actually.
I understand.
Okay. Councilmember Mosby.
I'm ready to make a recommendation.
Well, wait, we need public comment, yeah. That's okay.
Again.
Okay, yeah, so public comment. Anyone that has not spoken yet, spoke, on this issue, please step forward.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Ken Switzer. I've spoken before. I'm a realtor with Berkshire Hathaway. I've worked in the same regional office for 21 years, including work with investor clients, developers, and landowners. I was approached by California Space Center founder Ava Blaisdell 13 months ago to advise on real estate aspects of the project. I get asked by both old friends in Lompoc and others I've come to know locally during this endeavor, what is different about the effort this time by Ms. Blaisdell and her group that allow a space center to get built in Lompoc where it hasn't happened previously for one reason or another. I've heard that today as well. First, the approach this time is as a for-profit enterprise. While requiring a feasible plan to attract investors, it also means there's not a reliance on government and charitable funding, which is essentially an impossibility for a project at $300 million size to build out. And this is the first time in the three that it's been a for-profit enterprise. Second, the business model does not rely solely on revenues from museum admissions and rental of office space. As a real estate agent, I can vouch that traditional building rents and admission revenue model alone is not sufficient to develop this parcel profitability. The approach from the very beginning, going back 18 months with Ava, was to be aggressive in exploring revenue models that go far beyond these traditional avenues of income, both for on-site revenues such as sponsorships, exclusive operating licenses, Space Center membership clubs, space camps, merchandising, but also leveraging the unique brand, and brand's very important here, of California Space Center for much larger investor returns from incubator business equity returns, media distribution, and content revenues. There are other potential revenue streams being explored as well. The company founder, Ms. Blaisdell's decades of experience and connections in the areas of media and technology will serve well the company in the successful development of these non-traditional revenue streams. For the standard design, construction, and Space Center operation parts of the business model, as you've heard, there are large companies with successful track records to complete these tasks, such as Bechtel, Corolla Engineering, and IMAX, along with smaller niche companies with proven track records to provide the components of the user experience inside the Space Center. And during the submittal process in the first month, you will see all that. All these companies have been working with Ms. Blaisdell for the better part of a year in developing the relationships and roles to go forward once there is a green light. The third reason this effort is poised to succeed is due to the off-the-chart capabilities, energy, and devotion to the project by the company founder, Ava Blaisdell. I've said before, and I'll say it again, in 25 years in the business world, witnessing high achievers and very successful entrepreneurs, I've never seen a person this motivated and focused to achieving a goal, in this case to build a California Space Center and the associated company. 16-hour days, 7 days a week, for over a year, nonstop, and spending much of her own resources to make it happen while foregoing all other income and work. Whatever her motivations, there's no denying that this individual has the experience and the motivation to make it happen. Please let the effort continue by approving the exclusive negotiating agreement this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Good evening, council members, Mayor, John Lynn, Lompoc small business owner. So I just want to give the 20-second history lesson. First, remember that the property was given to the original effort to build a space center, and when that effort failed in the late 80s, it was returned to the city of Lompoc. And we learned from that effort. Then the California Space Authority stumbled in their process of building it on Vandenberg Air Force Base. And I was able to bring them to the city and move it forward for a while, and then they stumbled, but we learned from that. And then Alan Tratner came along and put an effort into it and stumbled, but we learned from that too. And several of the things that we learned were, number one, all those other approaches didn't work. The California Space Authority spent almost $500,000 on a design plan, and it's beautiful. They spent more than $100,000 on a business plan, and it's extremely detailed. And that was valuable in bringing this project forward with Eva. But they all relied on a conventional approach, which was that the project would be self-sustaining financially. So there's a lot of question about the value of the land. Well, according to my friends in the real estate world, there's about $3 million worth of land up there that's going to amortize a $220 to $300 million project. Obviously, that doesn't work. And so this approach that Eva has chosen is completely different, which she said to you. And that is the way that it can financially succeed, because we certainly want a project that is a success. So I want to speak from my heart about why I want the project going forward. I'm very selfish with regard to that. I want the 3,000 jobs for the people in Lompoc. I want the multiple $1 million of income each year for our city, for our parks, our recreation program, our police, and our fire. But most of all, I want the educational opportunities that I talked about in the voiceover that I did, so that young people in the city of Lompoc can begin at elementary school and become involved in this program all the way through their 4 years of college and go to work in that industry in this town. Now, you all know how many of your kids and your kids' friends have moved away. I'm one of the very few fortunate ones. My son was able to find a job here. But now, to be promoted, he has to move away. Wouldn't it be wonderful for our children to have an opportunity to stay in the town that they love and we love? So I request your unanimous vote. I appreciate your detailed questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Mayor, Councilman, Susan Gallagher, resident. I truly believe in this project. I think it's something the city will be very proud of what they've done. And from the presentations tonight, I 100% agree that we should move forward, give the chance to find out if we can do it, because there's other space centers in other parts of the world that depicted what happened in the space era in Houston, Florida. We have it here. We see it in the homes that we sell every day, the memorabilia from the people that did all these projects, and it could have been salvaged to create this museum. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we're going to close public comment, bring it back to the council. Councilmember Mosby?
You ready?
If you are.
No. I'll want to move forward with making the motion to push on with the exclusive negotiating agreement with Joe's conditional suggestions.
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, just want to, for the record, there were a couple of typos in the document that's on the agenda, and those typos are going to be corrected. So.
Okay. Now, go ahead.
And one question I had, there was a 3 or 4 day. Is there a time limit how soon it has to be signed?
I don't think so. It's conditional.
Okay.
Only if you set one.
No, it's conditional. She says she'll have something in 2 to 3 days. If she has it in 2 or 3 days, that's fine. If it takes her 3 years to get it, unless we withdraw that. I mean, so obviously it's not going to happen. So we respect the 2 to 3 days, unless someone wants to put a time limit on it. But Councilmember
Why
Vega.
don't we?
What's that?
Why don't we? There's a beginning and there's an end to everything,
Okay.
right?
So what kind of a time limit?
Why don't we give her 6 months? Sign it, right? Instead of leaving it
Okay,
open-ended.
okay.
You mentioned 3 years.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so 6 months. Okay. Any other questions? Then let's vote. And that passes. Yeah, well, okay. Okay. So Eva, congratulations. We put a lot of confidence in you. Please don't let us down. I know you won't. So just as a reminder, there's some hard deadlines in here. We're going to hold you to them. Okay? And then one other thing, Mr. City Administrator. Once this is signed, there's been we have a point of contact, a public point of contact, which is correct. Right now, it's Teresa Gallivan, our Economic Development Director, Assistant City Administrator. We as a council I'm assuming are going to be getting a lot of requests for comments there. Will you send out an email tomorrow morning to us and give us some guidelines, and, or unless you want to do it right now, what we should say, what we should not say? Should we still point everyone to Teresa?
I think it's probably good to go over that right now.
Okay, good.
First of all, since this is still a negotiation, the city is represented by a negotiating team that is headed up by Ms. Gallivan and Mr. Pannone. And I'd suggest that if it's anything having to do with the information of the negotiations and the progress and the like, that you defer to them rather than fielding those yourselves. I think you're free to be able to comment on the action you took, the reason for your vote, what you're looking forward to, those sorts of things. I think you're free to talk about and discuss. I would just encourage your continued caution on differentiating the roles of the negotiators from those of the policymakers. And so to the extent you want to reflect upon your policy decisions, I think that's fine. I don't know if the city attorney has more to add.
The only couple of details I'd add to that is, and I wouldn't suggest that you change how the approach you're doing except for announcing or discussing what you did tonight until the document's actually signed by everyone.
Okay.
And then once it is signed, I'm assuming that the city administrator, when he was talking about the negotiation team, it's also how the document gets implemented. So during the implementation, I also would suggest that you defer those implementation questions to Teresa or me or to Patrick, rather than try to deal with those implementation questions.
But I think it's okay for them to discuss their vision as they understand it and all of that. So to that extent, that's
with the restrictions of the Brown Act.
Sure, right.
Thank you. Okay. Council understands that then? Okay, we're going to take a 7-minute break. Okay, we have a quorum here, so we're going to start. We are going to item number 9, new business. Introduction of ordinance number 1611, parentheses 4, amending subscription. And this is going to be Gabriel.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor Lingle, council members, members of the audience, and members of our public watching at home. I'd like to point out that there is a typo. It should be ordinance number 1611.415. And this is the ordinance amending subsection 2.12.030E of the Lompoc Municipal Code relating to the city administrator's authority regarding approval of employment agreements. And so this is, we're doing the first reading today, and I'd like to ask if there's any questions on the ordinance.
Any questions from the council? Nope. Oh, wait.
No, I was going to say, I think it's a good idea and I understand it. I didn't at first, but questioning is everybody thinks that the top employees are at will. We're assuming, but now it's documented. So thank you for coming forward with this.
Absolutely. Councilmember Starbuck.
Okay, so we don't go to public comment. Are you okay?
I'm okay.
Okay, public comment. Seeing no one rise, we're going to bring it back to the council. Discussion. Would someone care to make a motion? Councilmember Mosby.
Go ahead. I'll make the motion to move this forward. recommendation.
I'll go ahead and second it, like Family Feud there.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Let's vote. And that passes 5-0. Move
Thank
on
you, Mayor
to-
Lingle, members of the council.
Okay, thank you, Gabriel. Moving on to new business, item number 10, adoption of resolution number 5982, parentheses 15, approving declaration of nuisance.
Mention.
Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Mosby.
Yeah, I got to step down. I got a property on the list.
Okay.
Only one?
Okay. Okay, Dina.
Mr. Mayor, council, and audience and viewers, thank you and good evening. Just want to put it out there that this is the initial list. We started with about 83. We've already got 42 in compliance, and we anticipate going down to maybe a handful that will actually have to move forward with abatement. So you're looking at a preliminary list that's very initial. So some of the people listed won't be there in even a week time from now. So please keep that in mind. We're looking at full compliance by June. We did modify last year's approach, which has been working quite well with an early compliance. We put out a letter to call for assistance. Before we even went through the formal abatement process and our formal lettering, we asked the public for them to volunteer to help us out early. And we saw a lot of people mow their lots ahead of schedule this year, and we're pretty happy about that. So that's a success we want to put in before you. We are following our normal process. That's why we're here today, to adopt that we have the authority, if needed, to pursue going down the formal abatement process. That is in the future. We don't look to use that very much, maybe a handful of properties. Last year, I think there was 3. So with the remaining, we've decreased drastically over the last couple weeks, and I anticipate that trend to continue. I've made a lot of site visits, talked to quite a few people, and it's moving forward, and we're looking with great compliance. The fiscal impact to the report, it does have a cost recovery mechanism. Should we need to do formal abatement, we can recover the necessary forced abatement cost and lien the property if so needed. Our best way and our tools to elicit this education and to get people to come into compliance to provide for the safety of our community. That's been going very successful. Our outreach has been a little bit more extensive, so we have some new people showing up on the list. Because of Magalito's fire last year, we have the awareness of our hillsides, both upslope and downslope, that we needed to do a little bit more canvassing to help out with removing some brush and some weed abatement. So you did see a list expansion, and you're also seeing it go down quite readily because people are on board. They realize that wildfire threat is imminent and possible here. Sometimes those embers can travel a mile or 2 ahead of a fire, so that's why we still target internal lots inside the city. So that's why that's still there. So we've seen great compliance. It's already underway, and our message of education is being heard, so we're just moving forward in the process. If there's any questions, I'm here to help.
I just have a comment, and it's, first of all, I want to compliment you on the fine job you're doing, but also Chief Latipau. Chief Latipau last year at this time promised me that things are going to get better, because it seems like we go through this thing every single year, and things have gotten better. I mean, I'm noticing there's my favorite lot, Dirk's, is it Anters, on, was it South C Street? I mean, you know, that, did they do that themselves?
Actually, if you're referring to one owner, I don't want to disclose the location, but yes, I've been out there twice with the person he hires. They've done an exponentially larger project further up the hill. The owner himself dropped a dead pine tree that I had to explain to him died since my last year's site visit, so yes.
Okay, but anyway, congratulations to both you and the chief and whoever else is involved, because it seems to be going much smoother this year, so. Councilmember
I was going to
Humdahl.
do the same thing. I noticed a lot of the early shredding. One reason is we ran out of rain early, so it got drier earlier. And it's nice to be able to get started enough earlier. Next year, of course, we're praying for a lot of rain, so you may have to change the cycle, but it worked out real well. There's still some places they just don't want it, like that one up there by the cemetery.
Okay. Okay, public comment? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council. Councilman Starbuck.
Is there a chance that Mosby could go on a chain gang? I'd like to go ahead and move staff recommendations.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, let's vote. And that passes 4-0 with one abstention. Okay, Councilmember Mosby can come back to the dais. Okay, City Clerk, any written communications?
Nothing.
Okay. Your last chance for oral communications. You have 2 minutes to speak to us concerning anything you so choose.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, City staff. Frank Campo. I just have a question. The last meeting, it was discussed about about the watering on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Was that going to be an informational flyer put in people's utility bills that explain, here's your consequences if not? I don't think that was covered at the last meeting. So thank you.
Yeah, we're doing a multi-phase outreach on that. It is, because of the emergency nature of it, there wasn't a lot of advance notice to be able to do because of the short time we were presented with. But yeah, our plan is to include that in a utility insert, to have the information on our website, and there's been some coverage thanks to local media to help get the word out as well. So, just trying a number of ways to get the word going. Talk to your neighbors.
Anyone else? Okay, we're going to close public comment, bring it back to the council. Council requests, comments, and meeting reports. Councilmember Vega.
Actually, I attended the Santa Barbara Taxpayers Association meeting, and I thought that was a good thing. It was it was a roast for Andy Caldwell. And I also went to an event last night just to support public safety, regardless if it's in Lompoc or Santa Maria. I went to a police fundraising event at the Country Club last night that supported Santa Maria PD, and that was quite an event also. So I got to see their fundraising skills, and so it was a nice event. So that's about it.
Thank you. Councilmember Humnall.
The only thing I went to the same roast of Andy Caldwell, and it was a good turnout, a cross-section of people. And that's all I have. Next week, the 29th, I think we have the League of California Cities.
Okay. Councilmember Mosby?
Yeah, a couple items. One was last time here, a member of the community came forward and was thanking me for assisting her to get her light fixed in town, and I just want to put a shout out to Marty and the crew in the electrical department for doing a great job. Within 24 hours, had the light fixed for the lady and did a good job. I just was the messenger. And as well, I had an opportunity recently to observe the urban forestry do a fabulous job on a broken limb that was hanging in a tree. And within 30 minutes, they had it cordoned off, coned off, and taken care of right away. So they are there. They do work. Just there was a little lack of communication where the limb was hanging because one neighbor thought the other neighbor had called and vice versa. And you got to make the phone call and they get on it right away. The other item that I'd like to make on a council request is it's something that's been on the table for a few years, and that is the old chicken ordinance. And I know there's one that's halfway drawn up already, I guess, from a couple of years ago. And I just wondered if we could get something moving forward. I mean, I've been told we're looking at maybe 2 or 3 years from now. And I mean, chicken eggs takes 21 days to hatch. Let's figure this one out. Maybe we can, and I guess I need a second and a third to try to bring something back for.
City Administrator, I don't think it's ever been as a council request, has it?
Not in the last 16 months that I can tell you about.
Okay, so Councilmember Mosby, are you making a council request?
Yes, I am. And
I'll go ahead and third it, and it's not coming up on our future agenda items.
The one to revisit the potential of a chicken ordinance. Sorry, I'm trying to keep my face straight as much as I
know there are many families out there that have them, and it's an item that's in limbo.
I was just amused. We need to come up with a different name for it, I'm sure, but
you know what I'm getting at.
Right. But I would just ask. Normally, we try to get those back pretty fast, but if you don't mind, I'd like to, if it can be after the budget season.
Most definitely.
It'll be we'll bring something forward.
Most definitely.
Thanks.
And some of that may involve also how that might fit into the zoning ordinance update and those options.
Good point. Anything else, Councilman Mosby?
That's enough for tonight.
Okay.
How many chickens would you like, Jim?
Councilmember Starbuck.
I have no reports.
Okay, Councilmember Mosby actually gave me a good segue into my report. No, not about the chickens. It's about Marty Hostetler and the utility. On Sunday, the 17th, and Monday, the 18th, I drove up to Sacramento on Sunday for a meeting of the APPA, which stands for American Public Power Association. I was up there to, along with Marty, you mentioned you wanted to thank him for their excellent service. Along with Marty, the city of Lompoc was awarded a diamond award for reliability in public power. We were one of only 25 cities in the nation to receive this diamond award. And so I told him I had to announce that I was up there anyway, because the city did pay for my hotel room up there. But Madam Clerk and City Administrator, in 2 weeks at our next council meeting, I'd like to put on the agenda that where we can present the Utility Commission with their plaque publicly and give them some real public recognition. In addition to that, they also received an award for power safety for their not having any injuries on it. So if we could get that on the agenda for 2 weeks.
Point of clarification, you said present to the Utility Commission or to the Electrical Utility?
Electrical Division, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Electrical Division.
They're all utilities.
Yeah, Electrical Division, because it's huge. One of only 25 cities to receive that award. The Diamond Award, the highest award possible with the Power Association. So, and that is all I have to say. That means that we will adjourn to City Council meeting on June 2nd at 6:30 p.m.